This meeting will come to order. May I have a roll call, please, Lupe?
Trustee Buelna, absent. Trustee Henderson,
Present.
trustee Hernandez,
Here.
trustee Hoffman. Not here. Trustee Eno,
Here.
trustee Vela, absent. Trustee Vettis.
Here.
Student trustee Francis, absent.
Thank you. I will lead the flag salute if everyone could stand. Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comments. Lupe, has anyone, any member of the public signed up to address the board meeting or agenda matters? Okay. Great. Before we proceed, Chancellor Rahman, are there any changes to our agenda?
We have no changes this morning.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Second.
So moved by Vera, second by Henderson. Okay. Roll call, please, Lupe.
Trustee Henderson,
Yes.
trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
trustee Hoffman,
Here.
trustee Eno,
Yes.
trustee Vela, absent. Trustee Vettis.
Yes.
Thank you.
We will now get started on our mid-year board retreat. There's a slideshow. Yay. Okay, so I just wanted to start off and kick us off to we're 6 months in. We've been doing a lot. Next slide, please. Just some of the general highlights to what we've been doing, and the district mainly has been doing, but all 9 colleges in the district budgets have been balanced for 24-25, which was a huge accomplishment by our campus presidents, our chancellor, our vice chancellors, and all the campus community. So I think that's a huge accomplishment. Times have been really challenging, and I know all of you have been working really hard to ensure that, our jobs are safe, our students, our classes, and everything's been kept whole. And I think the board, we're just really grateful for all of the efforts that all of you have been doing in order to sustain and keep us going. So yay to 24-25 budget closeout. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Again, we're committed to ensuring that all of our students have basic needs. So we've been extending that to our best ability. We're really listening to students and creating more and efficient and accessible ways for our students to have access to the basic needs. Our housing project is moving forward. So that's been moving really quickly. I know Trustee Hernandez is online, and a lot of the effort from her and all of our other trustees have really been making it productive. And thank you to the Vice Chancellor of Facilities as well, Vice Chancellor Sata. Let's see, sustainability and our executive leadership. So I have a couple slides on that, but due to the frame, it's here. But last year, when Trustee Henderson was leading our charge, we were quickly having some really huge vacancies. Our Vice Chancellor of Facilities, our General Counsel, our Deputy Chancellor, and our Chancellor were all in flux. And so in this less than a year, we've been able to fill all of those positions. And so that's a huge, huge, huge accomplishment for our stability. So I thank the Chancellor for getting some of those key positions, as well as our board for really executing a really truncated, expedited hiring process to ensure that we had stability, because that was paramount to our district and what we needed. Our enrollments have been up, so that is huge. We also piloted the Boost grant, which was helping. How many students did we help?
It was over 220, I believe. Is that correct? 251. There we go.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, that's incredible. And we've had some really good media about it. And we've been hearing a lot of great things about how it's really helped create a foundation and stability for these folks to have the ability to go to school and change lives, and not only for them, but their families and their community. And so thank you for that to Kelly King and the foundations. Some of the things that we've had to endure in the last year, or particularly 6 months, was the LA fires. Very huge and tragic. And our, again, foundations really kicked in to create sustainability and to help people stay afloat during these really challenging times. I know there's still a lot going on with all of that and the rebuilding and displacements and just uncertainties, but the district has really done a good job to be a safe space and a place for resources. So I thank all of you for that. The federal cuts, we've been staying very aware and abreast of to make sure that we don't cut any of our services to our students. And so thank you to all of the presidents and the district and the chancellor for getting all of that together so quickly. So we know as trustees what we have to do to advocate and be liaisons and ambassadors for as we go out there into the community to ensure that our funding remains whole and we don't sustain additional federal cuts. And just most recently, I think our campus community and just community in general has really been impacted by the threats of these ICE raids. And so I know all of us have been really heartbroken, and it's been a lot of weight as we navigate this for our students and our campus communities. And I really think our board, we're looking into a lot of trainings, safe spaces to offer to the district. So if things come our way, we will be prepared. Oh, and then, yeah, and I want to thank the Student Protection Committee. Trustee Henderson is also leading the way for a lot of that. And so we're just making sure that we protect our students in our campus community. So the next slide has to do with our executive leadership. So I just wanted to highlight and show some appreciation to their kind of recent hires, but their wealth of knowledge and what they've brought to our district has been amazing and irreplaceable. And so a huge thank you to Vice Chancellor of Facilities, Dr. Lisata, our General Counsel, Jeff Prieto, and our Deputy Chancellor, Dr. Nicole Alba Lopez. I just wanted to honor you and show appreciation. All of you came in with a lot on your plate to manage. And I think your ability to come in so seamlessly and really take charge of the things that we've needed to do, juggle all of the things while everything's pretty chaotic, has just been really helpful for us as a district. And I really want to say thank you so much for that. And then the final slide for my part is I also wanted to honor and say a huge thank you to our Chancellor, Dr. Alberto Roman. He came in as interim, and it's been how many months now?
That's permanent 3.
3 months as permanent, but and then it was 4 months as interim, 5 months as
5 months.
Yeah. So again, another seamless transition. That's something that our district desperately needed. And so these are just some of the fun pictures that we did when we did our delegation to DC, and then just some of the other pictures that I just wanted to say a huge thank you to you as well. And the board, you have our unanimous support. We want to make sure that today is very eventful and I think just productive. And so that's just generally my kickoff to hand off to all of you, because you all do most of the heavy lifting and the hard work, and we're just really grateful. And then hopefully today we will look at our board goals aligned with the chancellor's board goals and the district's board goals, and just continue the good work and find ways that we can improve, but also just generally highlighting a lot of the things that we've been doing, because it's been amazing. So with a grateful heart, I will now hand it off to the chancellor, and thank you to my board colleagues for all of their work.
Thank you so much, Board President Nino. What a wonderful way to kick us off. I really also thank the board for their amazing leadership, bold leadership, unwavering leadership of our students. What has been trying times. I want to thank you as the board president. We came in around the same time, and you've been an amazing board president, to me, and the support you've given to the entire leadership team has really been invaluable. So I want to thank you for that. And really just, as you stated earlier, we've had our share of challenges from the fires to the federal action that's taking place, to the general community impact that's had. But above all, I think we've done amazing work through the leadership of this board that we'll highlight today. Part of what we want to do today is really do the check-in of everything that we established in January to where we are today, and give the board a sense of all the progress that's been made. It will also give us an opportunity to calibrate. Do we want to revise some goals? Are the goals okay going into the next 6 months? Are there new goals that we want to establish? Are there things that the board is interested in that were not part of the original goals that we want to discuss? So this is an interactive process today. You'll have an opportunity to really immerse yourselves in that discussion. Ultimately, this is your retreat. So we want to make sure that you have those opportunities to engage and give us feedback as a leadership team. All 9 college presidents are here, as you can see. They're committed to the work that we're doing across the district. And we have our executive leadership team here as well to be part of this conversation. So here's how we're going to lay this out. First and foremost, we will give you an overview of all of your goals and the progress that's been made. We'll have Deputy Chancellor Alba Lopez and this team give you, and you have your packet in your, that information will be in your packet. So we'll go through that first and foremost. And then after that, we are going to look at our strategic goals and alignment. That is, how does our district goals align with the board goals, and how do those align with my goals, the deputy chancellor goals, and the president's goal? You have that document in there as well. Ultimately, we're working in unison, and I want to make sure that you have the visual of how everything is aligning in terms of us moving forward as a district. So we'll have an opportunity to have that conversation. And then, as I said, we'll then open it up to the board for a conversation on the current goals, the calibration of the goals, the new goals you want to focus on as well. And then lastly, we have a treat for you. We put together a short video, the way of a podcast that we want to show you. So I won't spoil that anymore. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with that piece that we put together. We do finally want to talk about the goal timeline. The district has been for the last few years on a January 1 through December 30th timeline. That is a little unusual. Most districts are July 1 to June 30th. So we want to have a conversation as to whether or not the board is interested in aligning your goal setting on a more traditional July 1 to June 30th. It would align with the chancellor's evaluation process, with the president's and everything else. And it would give us an additional 12 months to really hone in on some of the goals that are set forth by you in January. So that's a conversation we'll have, an opportunity to have discussion about it. If it makes sense, this is a direction we want to go. If it doesn't, that's okay. We can stay in the calendar year timeline. So with that, we're going to get started. And Board President Nino, for the record, do you want to, 2 trustees have joined us.
So I also want to welcome our trustee colleagues, Trustee Buelna and Trustee Vela, who has joined us. Oh, and Trustee Hoffman has also joined us, but you got part of the roll call. So we're all here, all 7. Oh, Trustee Hernandez is online.
Oh,
yeah, she's here. She'll be the hovering voice that we hear. Okay, so sorry, you did my part. Okay. Yeah. Next, we're gonna get a really comprehensive look at the staff major report overview and progress discussion. So I think Deputy Chancellor Alba Lopez, and I just really want to acknowledge and thank her for really putting a lot of this together. So everything in our packets have been compiled and put together as like a really thoughtful process to make sure that we know everything that the district has been doing. And now we will get a presentation on it. So thank you, Dr. Alba Lopez. Oh, yeah, it's very comprehensive. Over.
We have Deborah Berry from our budget office. We've got Betsy Regalado, who's the Associate Vice Chancellor in EPI. We have Maury Pearl, who's an interim Vice Chancellor of EPI. We have Millie Kudo, who's here from the EPI team as well. We've got Maria Velos with us, and we've got Dr. Lancaster stepped out. But the information that we put forward in the packet was a compilation of everybody's work. If you'll recall, in December of last year, the board set its goals, and at the ESC, we take that very seriously. We monitor those, and then we ensure that throughout the year, we're making progress toward those goals. So what we'll be presenting today is actually the outputs that the board asked to receive. There were 4 directives that we have mid-year review. So we've just put it all together in one presentation. And so we'll go ahead and get started with the EPI team.
Hello, thank you so much, Dr. Alba-Lopez, for the introduction. Again, my name is Dr. Millie Kudo. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share some of our work. As mentioned, we'll start off by highlighting some of the work that was completed this year related to Goal 1. And I just realized I had a clicker related to Goal 1, and then share some student outcomes that we've been monitoring, many of which you'll already be familiar with. One of the first efforts I'd like to highlight is our district's participation in the statewide Real College Survey, which was conducted in partnership with the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office during the spring 2025 term. This survey focuses on student basic needs and helps us assess the prevalence and correlates of food and housing insecurity among our students. Our office coordinated the efforts across all 9 colleges, and this slide just simply highlights some of the results. The survey found about 54% of our students experienced food insecurity, 65% experienced housing insecurity, and about 23% were unhoused at some point in the prior year. Compared to previous surveys we've conducted, we did one 2 years ago in spring 2023. The data indicate a modest decline in basic needs and security. However, the results also revealed that certain student groups continue to face disproportionate challenges. For example, our older students experienced higher rates of food insecurity, our non-binary students were more likely to be unhoused, and our Black students were significantly impacted across all categories of basic needs when compared to the overall student population. So to further explore how these equity impacts academic performance, this next slide starts to highlight one of our dashboards that focuses on disaggregated outcomes. And in this particular dashboard, we focus on first-time LACCD students. And this allows us to track multiple student success metrics, such as persistence, completion of transferable math and English, and attainment of degrees, certificates, and transfer. While the data does show some progress over time, especially at the college level, there are continuing areas of concern, particularly among our Black and Hispanic student populations. These disparities suggest a continuing need for intentional support strategies, thoughtful reflection of our institutional practices, and ongoing evaluation. And as part of our upcoming district strategic plan, we're also continuing to track equity, but with a sharpened focus. We've identified completion as our core equity measure, recognizing that degree, certificate, and transfer attainment serve as a key milestone of student success. The hope is that this focused approach will help ensure that our strategies are aligned to close longstanding equity gaps and support all students in reaching their goals. So while this highlights some of our year's efforts that were centered around equity, I would also like to focus to switching over at looking at some of our student outcomes. So this slide presents our course success rates for first-time students who started at LACCD from fall 2017 through 2024 terms, with data reflecting performance across the entire academic year. Overall, for course success in English, math, and across all courses show a steady increase over time, indicating progress in student success. However, there is noticeable dip in the 2019-2020 academic year, which coincides with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. and also the implementation of AB 705. So as you can see, the events impacted student success this year, and of course, learning conditions through disruptions in instruction, reduced access to services, and major shifts in placement policies. All of these things likely contributing to the decline in the observed that particular year. But despite these challenges, you can see success rates have continued to improve in subsequent terms. This next slide shows, again, data for our first-time students and presents recent trends in fall to spring and fall to fall persistence rates, again, from 2017 through 2023. Over this period, fall to spring persistence has remained relatively stable, ranging from about 69 to 73%, with a slight dip to 67% in the most recent year. In contrast, you can see fall to fall persistence, which is in red, has slightly more variation, fluctuating between 54 and 60% and declining down to 55% for the most recently reported year. We did start to examine various factors that might explain this recent decline and found that an increase in part-time enrollment within our cohort starting in fall 2023 is a likely contributor. The proportion of part-time students rose by nearly 8 percentage points in fall 23 compared to the previous year. And then just given that part-time students historically persist at lower rates than full-time students, this shift in enrollment pattern appears to have a meaningful impact on kind of the overall persistence rates. And looking at preliminary data for students for fall to spring persistence for students who started this last academic year in fall 2024, we do see that increase, that rate increase back up to 72%, which is consistent with prior years. Regardless, this will be an area that we'll continue to investigate and to monitor. So in addition to tracking success and persistence, we also monitor a broader set of student success metrics that align with the student-centered funding formula. And for that, I will turn it over to Mr. Pearl, who will provide a quick update on how we're performing in those key areas.
Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Millie. I'd like to continue the look at student success by focusing on the student success metrics. And this rather busy looking chart looks at nearly all of the student success metrics and tracks their trends over time. We use the double axis here so that on the right-hand side, you will see the numbers of bachelor's degrees. Everything else is read off of the axis on the left-hand side. Just one thing to keep in mind is that for the degrees and certificates, these are actually the highest awards earned by the student. We do not count the student that earns multiple awards. We only count the highest awards. So these degree counts will typically be much lower than what we report for degrees and certificates. I will not go through each one of the metrics here, but in general, I think what you can see is that we had some increases leading up to the COVID period, that's 2021, and then some declines that were COVID related following that, and then a recovery period, which you can see in 22, 23, and then kind of going forward. And so following the declines or flattening of the trends that started in 2021, we had some increases. And this occurred for nearly all of our metrics, except for regional living wage, which is not on this chart, and which I will get to in just a moment, and transfers. And you can see the transfer line, which is the yellow line, kind of still trending downward. So we have seen recovery post-COVID, and I just want to highlight a couple of things related to that. The certificate line, the purple line, is actually showing a bit of an accelerated increase And we expect that acceleration to actually continue, in part due to a presidential initiative that was proposed over a year ago and is now coming to fruition. We're able to identify students who have actually earned, but perhaps unknowingly earned a certificate. And so this, or what we're calling an auto award project, is actually something that we are going to be reporting in our data this year. Our preliminary estimate is that we will get nearly 2,200 additional certificates, and that is not including our one of our big areas, our IGETC CSU certificates. And we are still working on that to try to get that in for the SCIF metric reporting for 2025, 26. Another area that I wanted to highlight is the green line. And you can see that looks a bit erratic. It's gone up, trending up. That's our bachelor's degrees. And we have, I think, 5 new programs coming on board, are on board, or will be coming on board in fall of 25. And so that is going to be an area of continued growth as we go forward. To complete the look at the SCIF metrics, the final 2 are the completion of 9 or more CTE units. That is the blue line in this chart. You can see a positive trend picking up in the post-COVID period. This is generally an enrollment-driven metric, so we have seen a recovery in that metric since the COVID period. The line below that is the regional living wage, and this is a measure of the number of students who had left our institution or no longer enrolled in any educational institution and were reported through a data match with the using the state's unemployment insurance, employment development department data as earning a wage that is greater than the what is the regional living wage for our area. That is a county determined metric, and it is compiled by an external agency. In this case, the what is the Insight Center for Community and Economic Development. There's also some other agencies that produce this measure. For LA County, just recently, the regional living wage is $28 an hour, which works out to about $58,000 a year tax, pre-tax. So this is kind of disappointing that we see such a drastic decline in the proportion or the number of students that are able to earn this living wage. But you may recall, and it's still with us to some degree, we had a very rapid inflationary period during this time that really did increase the cost of living. Wages did not catch up with the cost of living, and that is, we believe, the primary driver for the rather steep decline in the number of students who are able to earn that regional living wage. Let me continue on with another area of—
Sorry,
yes.
Vice Chancellor, I just wanted to pause in case any of my colleagues had any questions at this moment. No? Okay.
Okay. Well, continuing on
Please,
with
yes.
a look at transfer, which was an area that where we saw a decline in the SCIF metric. We actually prepared some information on this for the Institutional Effectiveness and Student Success Committee. We took a deeper dive and looked into why this decline occurred, or tried to come up with some explanations. You can see there that the top line shows the blue line is the trend for the statewide transfers. And the red line is this trend for LACCD transfers. And they basically look pretty similar. The LACCD trend line declines a little bit more. It is about 16% over that period of 21, 22 to 23, 24. The statewide trend is about 10%, but basically they're all kind of trending in the same direction. So the question was, why are we seeing that? We looked at a variety of, we continued to look at data by segment. We saw the same trends across all segments, that is CSU, UC, and in-state private and out-of-state. One thing we were able to do is focus a little bit on, because the data was available to do this, is look at CSU transfers. Now, CSU accounts for about 70% of our transfers, so this is a great proportion of LACCD transfer activity. What we saw from the CSU data was that there was a decline in what they're calling international transfers of international students. And for us, when we did the calculation, we saw that about 44% of this decline of transfers that we saw for LACCD institutions was due to this decline in the international category. So so we see that decline in our transfers was really heavily accentuated by this decline in international student transfers. And that is also a statewide phenomenon, which we saw in the statewide data. Thus, a significant proportion of our transfer decline was actually somewhat externally driven due to the travel restrictions on COVID affecting international students, and to some degree, the general chilling effect that has been around the international student population for the last 10 years or so. With that, unless there are any questions, I will turn it over to
Sure, you do
Director
have
Barry.
one question, Vice Chancellor Pearl.
Vice Chancellor Pearl.
You have
I
one
a
question from.
Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate it. With the transfer data is based on students that have actually been admitted and enrolled, or is it students that have just been accepted and admitted?
I think
do we
it's
know?
enrollment as
Okay.
well.
Is there a way, and I run a transfer center, so I probably already know the answer to this because it's really difficult to find out how many students actually maybe applied to transfer and were accepted and then didn't wind up enrolling?
Yeah, I believe the CSU data has that.
Okay.
Has that.
I know it's hard to get.
Information available.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, another question, Vice Chancellor Pearl. Trustee.
And for those that have been around here long enough, we'll remember this kind of question. When we compare ourselves to statewide trends, are our stats pulled out of the statewide numbers? Considering we're 10% of that, we can
Generally, we don't do that. They
Yeah.
are included. It is sometimes difficult to pull them out.
How
but
much of
it
a
is,
variability do you think that is? Like 10% of the data is our data, right?
I can't speak to this particular kind of metric, but I think when we have looked at this in the past, it does not seem to create does not seem to distort the data in any significant way.
One more question from Trustee Vella.
Looking at the CSU in particular, that was the area that declined the least, is what we saw was in terms of Hispanic transfers. I don't think it is really a function of the number of transfers, but perhaps just the association with the wanting to transfer to those institutions that remained during the COVID period.
Is it possible to get head count also?
Yes, you can kind of see them on the graph. They're a little light there, but I'd be happy to to provide those to you. And we do have them broken down by ethnicity also in a separate worksheet.
Yeah, I think that also highlights the magnitude because
Mhm.
And I think with the current state of affairs, I don't see international students
yeah,
necessarily increasing in a significant way. To the contrary, we're hearing every college in our region is suffer more from international students. And also given the current policies in place or the changes to policies around international students. So it's going to be an area we're going to have to focus. African American, Black is certainly a concern, and Asian, API, white's 27. So I think we have a proportionally high number of Hispanic students, Latino students, Latina going to their CSUs. And so we're pleased to see that it's mitigated at 5%, but certainly the other groups are alarming. So some work for us to do. And we have amazing partnerships with all of our CSUs, at least the 5 in our region. So that's a conversation for us to follow up with our leadership team here in terms of what else we can do to support. We're hearing for the first time the CSUs are seeing declining enrollment. We had not heard of that before. So that is going to be an area of focus for us. So this data really helps us in terms of positioning ourselves to be in partnership with the CSUs to change these numbers. Because besides international, which we expected, Black, Asian seems a little high, all things considered. So yeah, that's a lot.
During the pandemic,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any reasoning on that. There was a lot more online. Clearly, we're fully online. I don't know if that facilitated employee or rather students' ability to go to college. I honestly don't have a good answer for that, Trustee Bell. It's a good observation. Certainly a follow for us. Yeah.
I'm going to possibly speculate on that. Maybe they're going to the use more. Maybe our enrollment to like the UC or out of state or privates increased because maybe there was more access there, right? Because it seems like all levels right now are having challenges in like the Cal States. Oh,
state has been very, I believe, irresponsible when it comes to their tuition keeps rising every year due to their own budget issues. They're constantly going to the students for increases in tuition. So to me, it's like, I'm not, obviously this is just all isolated, but for us, but to me, it seems like, I hope that's the case. That's because they're going to UCs or privates. I doubt it. Because, our students have been expressing to me directly that they can afford even Cal State now, especially when it comes to basic needs and where they live and how, books and like, it's never about the tuition. It's, even though that's a huge thing when the students are at Cal State, I always think it's also like, of course I'm biased, but it's to me always about housing and like, they really can't afford the dorms there. And like, that's why, when I talk to Cal State LA about us using their dorms, you would think they would want to give it to us free for ELAC students. No way. They were going to charge us like up to 10K per student per year. So this just seems a little weird, but whatever.
Dr. Ribbons, did you want to weigh in on some of that?
Yes, thank you.
Please.
Just one thing to keep in mind is that completion and transfer are trailing indicators. So sometimes they reflect enrollment trends from 2 to 4 years prior. So as we saw sharp declines in enrollments, 1920, 2021, we didn't necessarily see the sharp decline in completion and transfer in those years, but rather 2 to 4 years later. It's not necessarily the only reason for the trends here, but I think it's fair to say that it's a contributor.
Got it.
Trustee Hoffman, Trustee Henderson, sorry.
So I've noticed in the past. Sorry, I've noticed in the past few years that we have a number of students that complete several degrees at graduation. So could that also be part of the challenge where, they may have they are completing one degree, but there are subsequent degrees, so they're not leaving.
That is possible, but typically those, there's a joint award of a certificate and an associate's degree. And what we're trying to do is actually be able to identify those certificates earlier so that we can report them earlier. Something we can think about in terms of interpreting this data.
Right, because, my thought is if you have a student that's, like, for instance, I've seen students that are completing a associate's degree in mathematics, and then one in a science, and then one in natural sciences, then they may finish the requirements for one while they're working on the other, but they're not transferring,
It's possible.
immediately.
I
And
think,
also, are they just going into the workforce?
Mhm.
Where coming out of the pandemic, they need to work and help their families, where they're, finishing their programs, but not able to transfer immediately. So you see a
Gap.
larger gap in the number of transfers.
I think, like, for me, Chancellor and President, it's more like, if there is any barriers,
Mhm.
I don't expect our staff to identify them right now, but
No.
if
yeah.
there are any barriers, I would appreciate just us looking at that if possible. in the
Great point.
future.
I think that's the survey of checking in with students in terms of why the transfers have gone down. You're going to hear a little bit today about your other goals related to basic needs to sort of get to your comment, Trustee Vela, about the barriers. But it's absolutely something of concern, I would say, to see this significant drop in transfers. And I'm hoping that there are some factors we can identify that to help us, because besides international students, the other subgroups that have dropped significantly are students. That's our profile. So, and maybe a survey might be in order in terms of talking to students and figuring out why they're not taking that next step, right? And the completion side. So we'll follow up on that.
There is, someone has their hand raised on the Zoom. Professor Hernandez, Jeff?
Yeah, I wanted to first commend the data. This is a good starting off point for further analysis. As the conversation on transfer has proceeded, I recollect my experience of a transfer task force at East LA College several years back, where we actually did something that's ordinarily not done, and we looked at when students who appeared to transfer in the database, when they started at our college. And one of the things we found is many students, they started more than 5 years ago, 10, 14, right? Because you obviously have part-time students and whatnot. We also have some students who struggled, and fortunately, with the policies that were in place, they had the opportunity to develop the skills, develop knowledge base that allowed them to succeed and move on. And many of them are success stories today. I bring this up because one of the things that has been a concern related to AB 1705 that we haven't really looked at, but actually we could, is to see whether or not our total pool of transfers, including all those who have taken, many years to get through our district, if those numbers have changed. Typically, what we do is we look at cohorts, data, like how many transfer in so many years. So it'd be useful to know if we're losing ground amongst students who in the past would have had more opportunity to take the courses they needed to transfer, and now we've kind of cut off who we really are helping to transfer. The other thing is what we should be looking at is whether or not certain majors are being affected, certain disciplines, particularly those that are STEM disciplines. So I offer those two areas as suggestions for further analysis. Thanks.
Thank you. Follow up, Trustee Barris?
Maury, and maybe in sort of an initial response, because I'm looking at the same chart here, and I know we discussed this in IESS, but a lot of the when we talk about 1705
Mhm.
data is in that transfer math
Correct.
line there. And the one question that we've asked is we've seen obviously bigger throughputs. That's one of the trend lines that does go out and have more students coming forward. On the trans, so if you can speak to that and sort of how that relates to his comment, because maybe it's like if that metric is the wrong metric, then let's figure out what the agreeable metric is for everyone.
Mhm.
That's the right way to assess the true impact of 1705 and 705. Because maybe, I mean, that number basically doesn't indicate a problem. Other
Right.
things that have been raised by the Senate raise concerns. I just haven't seen a data line. So maybe we need to find a data line to describe that. And secondarily, and aside from that, you know, when we talk about transfers, and certainly international students are a thing, but I think there's also a very honest conversation at the CSU and our 5 regional CSUs. There's probably 3 that are preferred destination points. Certainly Long Beach doesn't have a problem attracting enrollees. I think CSUN is doing very well. Cal Poly amongst them and Luis Obispo are always hard to get into and tough places. But we have deficits at Dominguez Hills and LA. You know, and if we go a little further, there's a lot of space. And just recently, there's a beautiful campus in San Bernardino. There's a lot of space there for students to go, and housing is not expensive. So how we are discussing maybe the recruitment conversation and the sort of understanding that Cal State San Bernardino could be an excellent choice with plenty of, it's the same debate that happens at the UC level to talk about UC Riverside, UC Merced, even Channel Islands. It's kind of a disjointed campus, but sometimes housing and spaces there are really important. Now, I don't think it sort of fully envelops the fact that some of our students are important to their households, whether as a parent themselves or as a student contributor. So whatever we're translating and whatever we're thinking about as a goal, I think we need to make more clear connections to understand. Because right now, I mean, CSULA is wide open.
Right.
And it doesn't require moving into the dorms as well. I mean, it's a neighborhood serving school, but Dominguez Hills is a neighborhood serving school, wide open. But you know, maybe that's not where our students want to go.
Right.
You know, I've heard of the Garfield to ELAC to Long Beach trend a lot lately, and you know, when LA is right up on the hill. So I mean, I don't know how to get to that, and it's maybe the way our counseling or the way the way transfer counselors or recruiters are having the conversation, but there's a lot of options in the area, and we just happen to have, you know, 3 destination schools in our region that are amongst the better performers in the CSU system.
Sure. Trustee Hoffman.
Thank you. You know, also, we're not getting the full picture when you just see how many students transferred. So again, we don't know how many students applied. We don't know how many students were accepted and how many actually wound up not going, and what are those barriers. And you know, the state chancellor's office talks about this all the time with the ADTs. We might be doing great in terms of awarding ADTs, and students may apply and actually be accepted, but how many of those accepted students actually wind up as enrolled students? And I think trying to identify what those barriers are would be maybe something we could work towards. I will say that all of our transfer centers are pretty amazing because my transfer folks work with the LACCD. We're in the same region, and we do a really good job here. I mean, we really do serve students well. I know the ELAC Center pretty well, and I'm just impressed with the work that we do. Of course, we can always do better, but transfer is it's difficult, you know, and it's very hard to make sure that a student is on that right path. And when they do get admitted, a lot of times there are other reasons why they don't actually transfer.
Right.
And I would love to be able to take a little bit of a deeper dive to figure that out. Also, more students are coming to us not seeing the value in going on beyond community college, and we could beef up, and maybe that's a goal we put for today, some of our you know, workforce and vocational programs. And kudos to LA Trade Tech. That was an awesome article in the LA Times yesterday about the culinary program. And you know, that's something that this board really needs to look at. You know, how many students do not want to go on to a 4-year and really want to just get some good foundational training and experience and go into the workforce. But thank you, Maury. You know all this
You're
already. You've
welcome.
been
No,
around forever.
these
Thank you so
are, these
much.
are some really excellent ideas to continue to study this. And what we really did try to provide at this level was a pretty high, at this presentation, was just a kind of a high level look at transfers. But obviously there's some deeper and more complex issues behind here, which we will continue to look at.
Trustee Bona has a question or comment. Oh, you're not on.
You.
There you go.
In terms of these numbers, we did a survey, I think in 2021 or 2022 with regard to language. And you know, I'm always going to ask about in language, but it was also the survey found, I think about 60% of our region speaks another language. So, you know, without any particular language, I don't see anything with regard to, and I'm not sure the state has really incorporated the concept of language acquisition, teaching in language in terms of understanding these and potential enrollment numbers and a missing market, because we're not dealing as an institution, not necessarily LACCD, but as a community college institution. Is there anything that you saw in this data with regard to that?
Trustee Buolna, I agree with you. I don't think that information is readily available or collected in terms of how it would relate to this transfer activity. But you know, we are always trying to make associations, and if we can find that information, we will certainly bring it to bear on this.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna just
Sure.
say one quick thing. I think for me, and thank you everyone for your explanation on why you think these numbers are the way they are. My big thing is that, you know, we have to just be alert, because this is probably the third year that there's been a proposed increase for Cal State.
Yeah.
The economy's not too great. Our students, you know, we're doing well. Our administrators, us, faculty, we don't know at the economic piece of our students, even an application.
Right.
I know there's scholarships for applications. But we're in a different world right now.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just, let's just make sure there's no draconian or, you know, sinister barriers that we're not seeing.
Right.
Like AB 705 could be a thing, 1705. Because we are in a new world. And, you know, before the pandemic, a 1-bedroom apartment here was like whatever, you know, 1,500. Right now it's 4,000.
Yeah.
So we just have to not just think of us, that we're experts and we're all administrators and we know what we're doing. We have to understand that our students, and obviously Trustee Hoffman knows because she works with them, are in a real different economic space. So it literally like just has to do with me just doing my fiduciary responsibility and trying to ensure that students don't have barriers to the Cal State system, because it is our system, it is our student system. And I think the Cal State system right now is spending a lot of money on lobbyists to try to block bachelor's degrees. So there's some stuff out there. And I appreciate us being copacetic and trying to explain these rationalized drops like this. Lagging, I'm fine with that. But let's find out. Let's not just throw it under the rug and think of it as just another day in California, because the way we are today in our society and the state, you know, our students are coming to us, asking for us to build student housing, asking for us to have basic needs. You know, look how hard it was to pass the Metro Go Pass. Metro doesn't want to do it. Sacramento doesn't want to do it. This is $30 for a student per month. I mean, we're having trouble with just stuff like that right now. So I just want us to be alert that, you know, it's not always academic, administrative, you know, we have to rationalize trends because whatever, I just want to make sure there's nothing out there that is, you know, sinister, right? Because of where we're at in society today with trans students, with immigrants. You know, what if these people were, coerced not to apply because, you're a dreamer or whatever. I mean, that's under attack right now. I've just been, we were on Tuesday's call. Our dreamers are going to get, screwed very soon, so we just have to be alert. And I'm not trying to say that you guys don't care about that. I'm just trying to force us to look at it in also an alert and negative way too.
Yeah.
Because my job is to just
Prepare.
pick up every rock, make sure that our students are completely protected and have all the barriers removed that we can.
Absolutely. Great point. Trustee Bona?
Thank you. When going over this, that you reminded me that chart, recent trends. I just I wrote down a note. Trustee Vela reminded me, whether in terms of 1705 and 705, if I know we talked about, or we're talking about the concept of either a pilot reform process or whatever. It would be, I think, important for us to understand if 705, 1705 have had a negative effect on this, since who said it was some of these are lagging indicators. So in terms of from a policy perspective, if 1705 and 705 have had a negative effect on the trend, since we've already had an implementation phase, then, and if we are seeing a massive kind of policy shift because of the current administration, then, do we need to move that policy reform quicker? Along with potentially asking the state chancellor's office on data, specifically on language. And some of this chancellor may lead us to move quicker on some of this, to understand if those reforms are needed. Thank you.
Great. Good discussion. Chancellor?
This is a follow-up I have, and we got to go one, so this is a very robust conversation. I really appreciate, I mean this. This is what this is about. Having an opportunity to hear from you, trustees, and then shaping policy going forward. AB 1705, some students may be looking at simply an A degree, CT and career focus and shift, other barriers and language, lagging indicators. Why don't we just ask the students? Why don't we start with the survey and ask the students what those barriers are that include in language, that include 1705, that include a focus and a shift perhaps in career. So what I'm going to recommend as a next step for us is to go out and survey our students and figure out what it is that's keeping them from transferring, and then use that data to bring it back to this board to shape policy. If it is a shift in 1705, or if it is, working more with our CSUs, but let's ask our students to get a good sample size from them in terms of what's getting in the way from transferring. So I commit as a next step, if you're okay with that, Board President Eno, a survey specifically on transfers that includes all these factors, and then report back to the trustees in a presentation, maybe of committee of the whole.
Perfect.
That can help us shape policy and work with our college leaders on this.
Sure. Trustee Bowman?
I agree with all that. I would just be careful. Actually not careful with anything. I would just say time is of the essence to get it done ASAP.
Great.
Noted. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Trustee Francis? Did you have a comment? And welcome. Oh, are you there? Trustee Francis?
Yeah, she has to unmute herself.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Welcome.
Welcome. I wanted to chime in, and I think it was a great idea what the chancellor said, asking the students. One of the major things what is stopping one of the transfer is that our counselors is not loading up the classes correctly. So you have some of these students that are taking 16 units in one semester, 20 units, 14 units in one semester. Some of those classes are 5 units apiece, which means they're very heavy workload. So they're not understanding what they're signing up for. I have people who've taken biology and people who've taken astronomy. Those are 2 heavy courses that they don't understand of the time frame that it takes to complete those courses, let alone the time frame to have for them to, whether that be study, whether that be maintaining that, doing a job, or whether they're doing multiple things on campuses or outside of campuses. They're not understanding the workload that they're signing up for once they just get into these classes. So I think it's more of the communication of breaking down of what these students are signing up for, and then them understanding what workload that looks like. A lot of these students are failing classes and dropping out because they're not understanding the workload that they're signing up for.
Point taken. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on board goal number 1? I think this has been, I mean, it's interactive participation has been great, because I think we were originally going to do presentation and then for the board to kind of add, you know, where we're at with this to move forward in the next 6 months or next year. But I think the chancellor's keeping notes on actively doing this. So we're moving through really well. So thank you so much, Vice Chancellor Pearl.
You're welcome. And let me turn it over now to Director Barry for the goal 2.
Are we at board goal number 2 now? Excellent.
Good morning, trustees. My name is
morning.
Deborah Berry. I'm the Director of Budget and Management Analyst here at the district. I'm going to be going over goal 2, most of it, and then we'll have my EPI colleague come in at the end. But I'm going to be talking about our financial picture, kind of looking at a trend here so you know where we've been, where we are. Included in this chart you see on the monitor here is our latest results that for 24-25, which is the fiscal year that we just closed at the end of June. These are, I have to say, prelim as of period 15 closing as of July. We still have the audit to go through, but these are pretty solid where we will end the year in 24-25. This first slide here, I wanted to just talk about the SCIF. We just went over the metrics and looking at how that relates to dollars into the district. So as you're familiar with the SCIF formula, it is composed of our base, supplemental, and success components of the SCIF. We are paid off of either TCR A, B, or C. A is what we actually earn based off of our enrollment and our metrics. B is the calculated SCIF plus COLA, and then C being our hold harmless. I'm very pleased to show you that over the past 3 fiscal years, we have been receiving TCRA, meaning that we have been out of hold harmless for the last 3 years. And as you can see, we have had increases in year-over-year SCIF revenue, ranging from 11.42% in 22-23 to the most recent in 24-25, an additional 2.55% over the prior year. I do want to make a note here that that percentage increase in SCIF funding is not the same as the cost of living increase. I know sometimes we do get confused because the old formula, there was that correlation, but in the SCIF, the COLA increases the rates that were paid for our various types of students. So you'll see that even though the COLA in 22-23 was 6.5%, our increase in funding was actually 11.42%. And again, I'm just talking SCIF funding here. It is the majority of our funding, but we do receive additional funding in restricted programs and other state and local funds. Also on this chart, I do want to note that the difference, the makeup between our FTS, our enrollment-driven SCIF funding, and our metrics-driven funding. You may recall when the SCIF first came into play in the state, there's this idea where there'd be the split between 70-30, 70 between being enrollment-driven, 30 being metrics driven. So I did want to highlight here that we are improving in terms of our metrics driven enrollment, because again, unlike enrollment overall, where we're kind of at the limbs of demographics and what's going on, the metrics is where we really have an opportunity to increase our funding by focusing on those success factors that we just discussed in the previous slides. So again, that has been increasing, so that's good to see. So next, on the other side of the ledger, we have the expense trend. So again, while we're increasing revenues, our expenses have also been increasing. The majority, we are a people-driven organization. And so overall, district-wide, our salary and benefits expense, and again, we're just focused here on unrestricted general fund, but our benefit expense is 82 to 84% district-wide. Now, at the individual college level, that ranges from 91 to 96% of total unrestricted expenditures is spent on personnel. So overall, our trends over time have the expenditures have also increased. So you'll see the year-over-year increases indicated here: 14.92% in 22-23, 9.89 increase in 23-24, and then finally this last close year of 5.83%. I do want to note too that these increases in expenditure have not only gone above what the state COLA, but also what we've actually received in terms of state apportionment revenue. So obviously, if we're spending more than we're receiving in revenue, we are eating into our reserves, into our fund balance. So this last slide that I'm going to show you is actually that is a picture of that decrease in our overall unrestricted fund balance. We are showing a sharp decline, a trend of this in decreasing from in 22-23, we're at 187 million down to 149 million here in 24-25. What also is decreasing, what we use is the GOFA, which is the Governmental Office of Financial Officers. It's kind of our industry-wide organization, as well as the CCC. They recommend that you have at least 2 months worth of expenditures and reserves in your fund balance at all times. That equates to 16.67%. So as you see, we've ranged from 22.57%. We're down to now 15.59%, closing in 24-25, which means that we have less than 2 months of payroll or 2 months of expenditures in our reserves left in the balance. So those are just quickly what I have to show you. So I'm open to any questions that you may have. Yes.
I will facilitate. We lost board president for a minute. Go ahead, Trustee Hoffman.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So can we go back to like the first SCIF slide? Yeah. When the SCIF first came into play, I mean, obviously it was because we were in declining enrollment and the economy was not great. And we needed to the state needed to come up with another formula other than just the traditional butts and seats, if you will. And I remember John McDowell was appointed by then Speaker Anthony Rendon to sit on that very first committee that actually came up with this formula. So in your opinion, and I know you haven't been with us for very long, and probably this is a good Jeanette question also, or anybody else who's been around a long time, has this SCIF accomplished what we hoped it would accomplish? And where would we be if we were back to just the old butts and seats formula? Would we be better off or worse off? I'm just really curious because there's so much like conversation and chatter around the SCIF. Is it working? Is it not working? Does it need to be revised? So anybody can answer that question, but I'm just really curious because I think we're headed for some kind of scary times, and I'm just asking.
Dr. Berry, you can. I know President Grivens was involved in some initial conversations as well on the SCIF, and please chime in as you feel fit, please.
So I've seen a lot of different analyses over the last 7 years about the SCFF and how different college districts perform. LACCD, in all the analysis I've seen, benefits from SCFF compared to prior funding formulas. As you know, it incentivizes serving students eligible for financial aid and AB 540 students. LACCD clearly serves a lot more students who qualify for financial aid, receive financial aid, and AB 540 students than other districts. It incentivizes completion, and we benefit from the formula. There could be another formula that's even better, when any new formula has been implemented over my last 25 years, there's always been winners and losers in terms of districts gaining or losing from whatever the new formula is. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you. Are we looking at students who might be hesitant to apply for financial aid? And I just heard that from Trustee Vella that our dreamers, our AB 540 students may not come back. So how will that affect our funding? Or have we seen a decline in the FAFSA applications at all? Or DREAM Act applications?
I'll have to defer to.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe your colleague presidents, what are your observations? I know while I was at ELAC, there was a substantial number of students that were not applying for, the Pell Grant that were eligible. And so we were going after that as a strategy to get more of them to apply. But any of them want to chime in terms of your observations? Less students applying for financial aid. What do you see? Go ahead, Dr. Dorado.
So Chancellor, in regards to Harvard College, it's been kind of flat for us. And what we see is that students, because of our LA College Promise, one of the requirements is that they apply for the FAFSA. They just don't accept their funding so that they're eligible. And because they want to save that funding for when they transfer. And our LA College Promise pretty much covers all their fees. And if they're part of EOPS or any other program, all their materials are covered. In regards to our AB 540 students, a lot of our students are opting to take their courses online. Whereas the first administration, we didn't have that option. And now we do. So our AB 540 numbers for Harvard College are flat. They didn't fall drastically like the first time. Now our international absolutely took a huge nosedive.
President Gribbins.
District-wide I just pulled up Ann's report. District-wide for 24-25, just as President Dorado said, we were flat on AB 540 students. We dropped like 10 students, almost exactly the same as prior year. Promise grant or CCPG students, not the LA Promise, that decreased slightly more than 2%. Pell Awards increased by 6% last year. So big increase in Pell, slight drop in Promise, and AB 540 was about flat. I think it's too early to tell for 25, 26.
And I do think that's a metric for us, a Pell Grant increasing more. And to your point, we have an online option that we didn't before. So that's probably keeping our AB 540 undocumented students enrolled. Otherwise, I think we would definitely see a significant drop in AB 540 students. So that's been the saving grace for us, I think, so far. We're in the summer was primarily online. Fall will be the first test truly of how these federal changes have impacted students. But again, the online option will probably be where we can remain flat at least. But more to follow. Trustee Hoffman, I think that's an excellent question. I don't know if any other president wants to comment on the area of why students are not taking advantage of financial aid. But go ahead, Dr.
And Chancellor, I also want to chime in regards to our dual enrollment. Our dual enrollment has increased. So our dual enrollment students don't receive financial aid. And so that takes down our promise numbers. And so that's at Harvard, that's what we were looking at. Why the difference in our Pell versus our promise students. And because our numbers in dual enrollment have increased, that has affected the number of students that take advantage of that.
Because they're coming in with units already.
And
Please,
I think, thank you for letting us know, because there we go. That's really important because in the Ledge Committee, I think that's something we can really look at to propose a bill that could potentially give the College Promise to dual enrollment. And I think this year, I think Maria and President Eno and I and Chancellor really want to hear from the trustees before my chairmanship ends this year on what type of things you guys want to see in Sacramento, because this last year it went really quick. And then the feds really scared the state. And it was like all our, everything started to we're like, oh, usually we're like the star of Sacramento and everything. And it's literally was just because of some of these trends that we really don't know where they're heading. So anyway, that's really important. Thank you.
Well, and then just to add, I think when you're giving the analogy of turning all the rocks, when we were in DC, right, we were asking for Pell Grant increases also
Yeah.
is in preparation for some of the issues. So we're doing our best to really advocate for our students and trying to understand where the needs are. So Trustee Hoffman, you wanted to add?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the answers. I was asking more specifically how it will affect our SCFF or SCIF funding more than anything else. And so if, families are afraid to apply for federal financial aid, that's going to eventually affect our bottom line. And I'm also hearing that we are expecting a big budget deficit. And so obviously we'll talk about it in the budget committee, and I still want to have my joint budget committee meeting at some point soon. But I'm more concerned with how we move forward, given the reality of what the climate looks like and how we're going to maintain fiscal stability through all of this. So that's my main concern in terms of the budget. Yeah, enrollment's important, and I understand there are some challenges there, but I was more referring to that's a big part of our SCIF formula funding, and I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to still encourage students to apply.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, sure.
Comment. I don't know if I wanted to make this, I was struggling where I would make this in board 2 or board 3. But my comment, I know we've talked about SCIF, which is a statewide formula, but we also have our budget allocation model that's changed here to there over the years, and sometimes it changes with some complaints, and sometimes it changes different complaints. It sort of is what it is, but it is I think part of our shared governance process that we develop these formulas. They come to us sometimes pretty well cooked. And I wonder sometimes if the dialogue about when that's taking place and how we construct a budget forward should be a place where we engage earlier as opposed to at the tail end of this, to understand sort of the things that we're doing. I'd say, for example, as we build budgets, and we always prioritize reserves and put away reserves as our first principle stance, to try to understand how each of the sort of operations of the schools are either positively impacting the allocation model or need a sort of deeper revisit. And at the same time, sort of how we understand that what other kinds of levers can be considered to either make them a little more fair, equitable, where we're not always having, it seems like the complaints come out of somebody who feels like they've lost revenue. But it almost feels like if that's the concern, it's how is one school constructed that much differently than the others? I've never been able to figure out that question through the years, because it almost feels like if we're going by SCIF, which is a statewide allocation structure, that most of the way that revenue comes in and most of the way the budgeting happens at each of the schools would be kind of similar. It just never works itself out in the actual numbers that we see at the end. So it's just something I just make the observation, and I've been sort of struggling with it over the years to understand how it does very well, and maybe it's in a heavy enrollment base, and maybe there's always been talk about right sizing, how maybe you need to be big enough for these formulas to really work really well for you, or maybe it's our allocation model that needs to be sort of worked with. But my expectations, whether you're big or small or whatever, is that you could follow a model and build on sort of solid base and principles that allow you to have success.
Yeah, so we are scheduled to be looking at the current allocation model as we go into next fiscal year. So we will be looking at that this fiscal year through the DBC committee or through the DBC. And then for implementation, the new model in 25-26. So we are going into that work right now. We are a unique organization in that we have 9 different colleges that have a huge variance in their size, location, community makeup, historical culture, and so on and so forth. And so while they're all their own little kingdoms, we are all one family and we all have one pot of money at the end of the day. So there's always going to be, unfortunately, winners and losers in terms of how we allocate those funds. But since I've been here, what I'm trying to preach to all my colleagues is that we are one big family and one big pot of money. These are all of our students, all of our employees, right? And so when we look at the money, we have to always remember to at least consider that frame, that we are all using one pot of money and we are funded as a district. We are not funded, even though we're accredited on individual colleges, we are funded as one district.
No, and just as a quick follow, and I completely understand that, but I want to see sort of either a model or some direction to the college where everybody looks like they're succeeding. Everybody, there's no losers in our model, because we're supposed to be following sort of a common model, you know. And I don't want to use this analogy, but like I said, if my youngest daughter was in charge of our family's budget, you know, we'd be bankrupt very quickly. The house would be very fun. The refrigerator would be very sweet. But we couldn't do that, you know. And I'm not saying anybody is like my youngest daughter here and apologies, but just like, I think the model, I'd love to see models built so that everybody's successful and everybody's winning, and to understand. And I've always had a hard time understanding when people aren't, or when one college or two colleges aren't as much. But to be able to understand those trend lines and in that scenario in the allocation model, where can we, you know, sort of get our hands sort of deeply involved to ensure that the allocation model is a design for success, as opposed to a design for, you know, winners and losers.
Yeah, and I think that's all, as we go through the process, we'll have to look at that and take input from all, you know, we have, you know, smaller college versus bigger college. We will also have to think about, when it comes to budget success, that there's two sides of the ledger, right? So we can look at revenue allocation, but we also always have to look at what the expenses are and what that is relative to what's happening operationally. So I just want to put that out there, that we have to always look at both sides of the ledger, both the revenue coming in as well as what's happening on the expense side.
Can I add one thing? So we are going to look at the allocation model, and that has to certainly include the assessment process, reserves, open orders. We're looking at those. The fact that we can have to continue to incentivize growth. I mean, that no model should penalize a college for growing. At the same time, there are others that have unique characteristics. What I would commit as a follow-up is to start early and begin to look at a variety of models where we can see how each college fares. Because at the end of the day, I agree with you, Trustee Veras, we have to make sure we all rise together. But I do not want a model where, you know, colleges that are growing, and this is concurrent time, are having that growth that's having to come for the rest of the colleges, which in a way doesn't incentivize. So as a follow-up here, and I'm writing notes as you're having the conversation, is let's begin the conversation sooner. We have a governance process that looks at this through DVC and ECDVC, but I think it has to start now, because to Trustee Hoffman's point, the fiscal cliff is here, and we have to do, and this is my words, but we have to start now looking at the way we best organize. And assessment is one of the things I've committed to the colleges to look at, in the way we are taking part of that funding that could go towards colleges. But again, we have to understand that there is an operation here that has to be sufficient to be able to support colleges. So why don't I put it as a follow-up to start that conversation now, and you know, take it from there and go through the budget committee for those conversations as well, in our joint committee.
And can I just add a couple of like considerations, although this isn't direct student support, but you know, if I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, obviously my expenses are going to be a lot less than if I lived in a 5,000 square foot mansion. And so when we look at some of our smaller colleges versus our larger ones, like Pierce, for instance, which has, I don't know how many, 465 acres, we need to look at like the formula is the same for every college, and not every college is the same. And so I do want to take that into consideration. And I know we've been talking about it for like 10 years, maybe longer, that we really should look at like the operational expenses of the college as well. When we consider, yes, growth is important, and we need to fund for that. We need to incentivize for that, but we also need to look at like, what does our district look like? And how much funding is the college going to need to actually be operational and look decent and all that stuff? Okay, thanks.
Great comments. Anyone else? Are we good for goal number 2? Or there's still more slides? Keep going.
So now I'm going to hand it over to Betsy. We'll talk about fee payment.
Hello, good morning.
morning.
So I'm going to give a very brief update when it comes to the payment fee policy. The overall impact of the payment fee policy that took effect in summer of 2025 was minimal. We had limited technical issues. We had no enrollment impact for summer, and we decreased the financial liability for the district. I've been asked to refer you to your packet for additional information on this topic, so we can move on to goal number 3.
Great. All right. So just so we're aware of our time, we have about an hour and 15 minutes and 2 more goals to kind of go over. So keep it going. Thank you.
Good morning, trustees and chancellor. So goal number 3, let me first start out by thanking the chancellor, President Eno, and Trustee Bella for their participation in our very early Tuesday morning meetings.
Weekly.
Weekly meetings. And I really appreciate all of their input and leadership in us developing our legislative strategy on a day-to-day basis. So
Yeah.
thank you for participating in those meetings every morning. So goal number 3 aims to ensure that the district is prepared for newly developed federal and state policies, supporting exploration of ways to collaborate with other districts, and also supporting ways to collaborate with the state to resolve common challenges. Yeah. There. So first, like every year, the 2025 legislative priorities aim to impact our students by directly addressing their basic needs, providing supportive services, and enhancing the educational opportunities for our students. And this year, at the request of Trustee Vela, we really focused on workforce opportunities for our students. My presentation will discuss the federal, state, and local legislative efforts. I will also share with you the LACCD collaborations that we are engaged in with our neighboring districts, and our statewide collaborations. And then I will touch upon the local and statewide initiatives that we are undertaking this year. Okay, we're starting with our legislative efforts. So at the federal level, LACCD played a critical role in ensuring that the final version of HR1, I'm not going to call it what it's called, did not include significant changes to the Pell Grant program that could negatively impact our LACCD students. By collaborating closely with ACCT and other key partners, we successfully ensured that the final package signed into law on July 4th did not omitted these detrimental changes. In addition, with the leadership of Trustee Welna and Trustee Henderson, we have resurrected the Student Protection Task Force. We meet every 6 weeks or so, and we include an updates on federal changes for all of our key stakeholders. With respect to our congressional community project funding, we secured 4 congressional earmarks in the House appropriations bill That includes $2 million for LA Mission College land acquisition project, the Los Angeles Harbor Community Engagement and Workforce Development Center for $850,000, the Arboretum project, renovation project at LA Pierce College, and the Cybersecurity Center at Los Angeles Valley College. Okay, with respect to state legislation, we introduced 5 legislative measures this year, 3 of which are still moving through the legislative process. That includes the Strong Workforce Internship Program, AB 323, sponsored by Mr. Fong. At the request of Trustee Hoffman, we supported and sponsored AB 648, the SBIR bill, which deals with exempting new student and staff housing from local zoning regulations on community college owned or leased properties, and that's still moving through. And then we sponsored AB 695, which is the Fong bill that deals with deported students. And that bill will ensure that deported students can continue their education online while abroad, and allows community colleges to continue collecting FTEs. The 2 bills that did not make it through, or we're still working on them, actually, they're 2-year bills, AB 1035 by Assemblymember Gonzalez, and the LA Metro Go Pass bill, AB 861. I should mention that AB 1035, what we did was we submitted a statewide budget request through the State Chancellor's Office for a $2.7 million increase in College Promise funding for the state. And we submitted that application last Friday. And the LA Go Pass Metro bill, what we did was we included language in the state budget that passed this year to allow for the block grant funding to be applied to transportation. So actually, AB 861, we may not move at all. With respect to our state budget requests, we are very pleased that the LACCD budget priorities were successfully included in the 2025 state budget. This budget ensures that $464 million in state funds for community colleges will remain whole. That means that approximately $30 to $42 million of that will go to LACCD. In addition, with the support and involvement of Trustee Barris, our advocacy team continues to work towards including budget language for inclusion of pre-adjudicated youth in the Rising Scholars Program. At the local level, with the support and involvement of Board Vice President Trustee Sarah Hernandez, we were successful in restoring funding of $1.1 million for the LA County Campus Peer Navigator Program. Okay, so this part of the goal talks about exploring ways to collaborate with other districts. I realize that there are very many other organizations that we collaborate with, and I know the trustees are very, very much involved in other organizations as well. For purposes of this presentation, I only included those organizations that I'm involved with on a regular basis. So this year, I was asked to join the CCLC Government Relations Advisory Committee, and that group makes recommendations on statewide policy. Over the years, I've been very, very involved with CalCCTA, and that is the Latino caucus of the league. I
I know that trustee Hoffman, Eno, and Henderson are also involved with some of the other league caucuses as well. I participate in monthly meetings with the California Community College Chancellor's Office advocacy team. And we track and monitor, make recommendations on statewide policy. And then most recently, I was invited to participate in the LARC Advocacy Committee, and I'm working with President Keith Curry on their 2026 advocacy plan for that organization. And then lastly, last year I formed the LA County Government Relations Professionals Group. And this is a group of legislative and advocacy professionals that represent all 21 colleges in LA County. And this allows us to take positions and strategize on policy that involves our regional community colleges. And it's been very, very helpful. The last part of this goal talks about collaborations to resolve common challenges. And our engagement and partnership with the State Chancellor's Office has never been stronger. And I'm very, very excited about the local advocates and the work that they're doing to build stronger collaborations locally and regionally. So with the support and leadership from Trustee Gabriel Buelna, we launched the statewide in-language summit series. We held our first summit on March 27th, and we are set to schedule our second summit on October the 2nd. And then we were recently asked by the State Chancellor to help with the advocacy efforts and support of AB 1400. And that's the Community College BSN bill. And so we are helping the State Chancellor with building regional support for that legislation so that when it reaches the governor's desk, hopefully we'll be successful in getting this signed this year. And then finally, very exciting, we've been working with President Eno, the Chancellor, and our advocacy team to build partnerships and workforce opportunities for our students with the upcoming Olympics and major sporting events that are coming into town. We recently began an engagement with LA 28, the Mayor's Office of Major Events, and the Los Angeles Sports and Entertainment Commission. So that concludes my presentation. I want to thank again the Chancellor and the trustees for all their involvement this year. And I also want to give a shout out to our presidents that joined me in Sacramento in testifying in support of our legislation. That includes President Perez, President Dorado, and President Aguiar, and our Vice Chancellor of Facilities, Mr. Sata. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Buelna?
Let me just say, that was an awesome presentation.
Thank you.
And Trustee Vela, I don't think anyone could have done better this year.
Yes.
Than you.
Yeah.
In that position.
Thank you.
And you're probably wondering, why am I saying so many nice things?
I know, I'm scared.
Okay. So, and then there is no but, it's a hard stop. Here's what I didn't hear. We have until, I'm thinking, when is January of 2027? What does that mean? I mean, ultimately means the next Congress, right?
It's my birthday.
Okay. So it's good. It's a good thing. So we've got 16.5 months. 16.5 months to survive. In that 16.5 months, there's going to be at least $70 billion allocated to ICE. In those 16 months, we can now remember every single month since January, something big has occurred. Right. Yesterday, I mean, this morning, I think there was a Penske truck at Home Depot that had ICE agents inside. It's craziness, right? Craziness that's occurring. So as much as this is occurring, Chancellor, and kind of for us too, what I'm not seeing, and this is a lot, Trustee Vela, this is a lot that's occurring, right? Is that I'm not sure that it's enough, or the speed, and potentially we may need more team members to handle certain stuff. Because we're getting, kind of like from the previous presentation, that there's a lot of things in the outskirts of the emotions of our students that are affecting enrollment, affecting transfers, affecting everything. And Chancellor, you mentioned that we're going to do a survey, and I think that's excellent. I think what I'm not hearing, because we just brought it up right now, right? Just, to be fair, is an urgency to move now, because next month or this month, there's going to be something else crazy. And then in September, there's going to be something else crazy. So I get that it's extraordinary, but there's again, $70 billion in ICE, massive arrests are coming up. The reason we don't have more ICE raids right now is because of the temporary restraining order, right? So we're in a little illusion of kind of safety right now, right? So let me give you an example, Trustee Vela. So with regard to this survey, right? If this survey could be done in a way that is staggered, so we start getting data like at the September board meeting or quicker, right? If there's information that's coming out on 705 and 1705, I could be wrong, I could be right? Or somewhere in the middle, can we move it faster? Whether Sacramento wants to pay attention to us, that's something else or not. But I think you need more resources, and for us to say to the committee, can you move faster in all this? Let me give you another example. One thing in terms of the survey, one thing that I'm hearing is the anxiety of students.
Yeah.
How are students anxious, right? In terms of anxiety levels, and the researchers there could be another question, right? So are they afraid to come to campus? Are they afraid to talk to people? Are their families afraid to do all this? We may learn data that the state chancellor's office, because we've led them before on all kinds of stuff, that we may need them to move on stuff faster, but understanding the timeline. And again, I'm not saying that you guys are moving fast. This is an awesome presentation, but time is of the essence on this. I'll stop there.
Thank you for that. Trustee Hoffman and then Trustee Francis.
Yeah. I want to go back to I don't know what you're calling it. That big, gigantic, big, beautiful. What are you calling it?
The ugly.
Okay, I want to go back to that ugly,
That thing.
big, ugly bill. There was something really good in that bill, like really, really good, because for years, when I go to DC, I've been in advocacy meetings with the chancellor's office and with the league and with the statewide academic senate and with FAC and with ACCT, advocating for short-term Pell, which was always a bipartisan supported effort. And short-term Pell is in that ugly, nasty bill. I know they're trying to figure out how to roll it out, but starting July of 2026, I think students can start to apply and receive short-term Pell. And I think we need to hit that hard and make sure that our students know about it. I'm looking at you, Vice Chancellor Lancaster. But that was something that honestly was really good, because we've been advocating for that for years. So I was happy to see that. And then in terms of the Pell, they removed, you don't have to be in 15 units, because that was something that was going to be troubling if I got rolled back.
Yeah.
Okay, it was not included.
But
Okay,
the
awesome.
district did fight for that, because they were
Good,
going to
no.
move forward.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that okay.
Yeah.
But I think that's really that shouldn't go overlooked, that we got short-term Pell, because that's huge for our students that don't want to transfer.
Trustee Vela's workforce task force is really honing in on a lot of that, and he's working and having conversations on
Yeah.
it.
So we, obviously, and I really do want to publicly thank Maria for this is unprecedented. I was chair of public affairs various times, but I'd never seen it this kind of uncertain. It's different from the COVID time because to Gabriel's point, it's literally like we don't know from day to day. Because even like some of these policies, the administration's like, okay, we're going to do short term. Well, we change our mind. Oh, well, we won't give it to you if there's trans students. Like, for example, the trans job fair, like we're having to like not you kind of revive it, but hidden. I mean, there's just so many things. But here's the no, and I just want to say, you're absolutely right. The regional stuff, one of the things that we're doing, and I think Trustee Vettis understands this because of his role in the state Senate, the chancellor as well, is that we were having these major events like the World Cup, like the Olympics, and then all of a sudden we're not kind of being tapped to the periphery jobs that these major events in Los Angeles are producing. And I think the industries and they're all based out of, I guess, commissions, right? And so on and so for nonprofits that put these big things together. They were just thinking about what jobs they have and they would want to potentially have our students to volunteer or maybe work. But then now we're starting to kind of go outside of that realm and talk about how we can potentially, let's say, hook up a culinary student because, let's say the Marriott downtown is going to have an increase in staff because they're hosting, not just the athletes, let's say, but let's say the people who are going to come to visit Los Angeles during that time. So those conversations are very, outside thinking of the box, obviously maybe not as fast, we couldn't get a commitment like, yeah, for sure. But I think that's the way we weaved in the short-term Pell Grant with kind of these new type of jobs that are occurring. And then these major kind of events that are going to happen. But I do really want to thank, kind of our advocates too, because they really were the people, in particular, Holland and I up in Washington, who were really looking out for us on this. But I appreciate these comments because it really does shine light to the fact that even in a dark time during this kind of, I don't know what it's called, beautiful bill, whatever. What is it? Okay. It was, there was these kind of things, to your point, that were, I would assume, a victory for the district, and the state. But anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Trustee Francis?
So I just wanted some more clarification from Villa on your committee. So does your committee assist of presidents on the campus itself that's supposed to be funding this information out on like surveys? Or what does it consist of exactly? And what is your main target? You say students now. When you're saying students, are you talking about just students in general or certain departments that's just lacking in that area, like our English department or our nursing department or any of our bachelor's programs that we are having on our now community colleges now? Like, what type of data are you looking for to help you with your bill? And then with that, I know with me being new on this board as well, I am a very key viable player of this because I meet with the 9 presidents of the cause. I actually meet with them this Friday. So this is why I'm here now, to grab this information up so I can be that tunnel to my presidents to help you guys also on the grounds of your schools. So I just need to know, what do you need help from us to do? Because you guys have a team here. It's just not all about connecting us and giving us a part to play so we can fund this information out. I've still seen a lack of presence on social media as well. I think we can do better on social media. A lot of students hit me up on social media when I do share a lot of things that are being shared on social media, and they want to know more information about that. So as long as this is a team that's able to respond back to students as well, that may be swiping up or just having questions in general, I think that's very well important. But I think we have a great team this year to execute the information that's needed. My presidents are eager and hungry to be that leader that they want to be. And we're very excited to start this year off with making sure our students are being met with their needs are at.
Yeah. So I think 2 things happen that are very critical. One is that you have invited us to your meeting with the student presidents. I know President Eno's going to go to the first one, or is it
Friday.
tomorrow?
Friday.
Friday. which is super critical because we get the information literally lightning speed from our advocates. Like, as I mentioned, one thing goes on one day and then it changes the next. So that's step one. And then step two, in the Legislative and Public Affairs Committee, we've invited not only Juliet Hidalgo, our PIO, the Public Information Officer, to report out on the various, like, information, events, news, stuff like that, which hasn't been done before. And then we've also invited the Build Programs community outreach component to also let us know what's happening out there. In order for us to kind of capture all of that in one committee meeting. And so, again, hasn't been done before. I think it's last month. I think you were there for that Legislative Affairs Committee.
Yes.
Was the first time we had all of this information kind of funneled through.
Okay.
But again, going back to the leadership, it is our responsibility and vice versa to make sure that committee is open to the student trustee and to any of the student body presidents, and then we going to your committee. So I want to stand by that because I think it's been successful before that model. So we want to continue to do it.
And also, the opportunity for our community and students particularly to propose legislation. Before it was like a 1 month, 1 month timeframe, but we've extended that to earlier. And then with information, Maria's really made sure that we're trying our best to outreach to the community to say, like, what do we need? What do our students need? And how can we move that through legislation and policy? And so I think Chair Vela has been doing a really good job trying to anticipate as much as we can. But like Trustee Bona said, things are on fire and we need to act quicker on some of the emergency things, right? There's the anticipated things that we can kind of predict, like the events, right, that we've been meeting with, but these actual like global, national, local crises, we're trying to balance both. And with your leadership and pulse with the students, it's critical. And we're very grateful for your leadership with that.
If I could add, Board President, I think this is part of the exercise today, sort of responding to Trustee Buena. Where we were in January and where we are today might not be the same place. So part of the purpose of today is to look at the goals, refine the goals, and opportunities to shift them. In this case, I'm hearing potentially more resources, adding to the agenda as we move forward. And it will be a segue conversation. I know we're running out of time, but recommendation on resetting goals July 1 into next year, because the next 6 months are going to be critical. So we'll get to that conversation in a minute, but I do want to appreciate your leadership.
Yeah.
Stepping up, taking initiative, wanting to help us. As you heard from our trustees here, they're ready to step in. So invitations to them, to your spaces, is absolutely invaluable. And I appreciate your extending that to them. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other
Quick
Trustee Burris?
comment question. I know we've had a chance to talk a little bit about AB 1400. From and I think one of the things that carries the bill way down the road is obviously conditions in the workforce, labor partners being great advocates. Just yesterday had nurses union in the office talking about advocating for this. But one of the things about this bill, and it could be, and maybe because of its potential precedent setting, and it maybe speaks to sort of the challenges we've had with the CSU system as a whole, is sort of how to, because this is actually one of those that could like open some gates pretty wide for us when it comes to the conversation of workforce need and bachelor's degrees. Clearly the nursing side it's also backed up with with the state board examination behind it. But I wonder, as we look at this AB 1400, and if we can sort of get over the barrier that this could be seen as like sort of a model of looking at what's critical in the workforce that could use some bachelor's infusion, and what else can we think about? Because if we keep we're fighting the biggest battle right now, which is on the nursing front, But the reality is, and our biggest opponent is this, the health, I think the fiscal health of the CSU system and the fears. But it may be time to like start thinking about the systems together in a way that they're partnering. It's not the model of we prepare and then they transfer anymore. It's just that we're not meeting the workforce needs.
Mhm.
And what other sort of other potential bachelor spaces that are critically impacted. And maybe it's these things where we have limited class ratios. I mean, there's a reason. I mean, I think, and we don't have to go that far in our advocacy to indicate that, you know, we have a 12-to-1 class ratio or whatever the exact Bureau of Nursing stats is for us. We're always going to have a limit in nursing so long as there's those class size requirements and things put on by the Bureau. But there really is an advocacy lane that can expand into multiple lanes, you know, after this conversation. But I don't love the veto message from the governor last year. I don't love the fact that it feels like we're warring with, you know, basically our sister system. But maybe there's a better way to sort of define it so it doesn't look like just we're going to grab your students here. Maybe there's something different to consider. You know, I loved a lot of when the CSU started developing PhDs where they were going to other schools and having the classes on their schools. And maybe there's sort of an affiliation ultimately with bachelor's and a CSU together. I don't know if that's, you know, maybe to think out of the box of one way to sort of reduce barriers. But eventually we're going to have to get to that because, you know, on our charts, the bachelor's the smallest numbers, but represent growth. And we're actually leading the state in our advocacy, leading the state in the number of bachelors we offer and sort of the examples here. But if nursing goes, it's just going to be a wide open space.
Right.
Thank you. Chancellor?
Other than this is a state priority, the chancellor, we have been working with her. Thank you to Chair Vela for really enabling us as the administrative staff to get involved. And we're getting legislators, we're getting industry partners, we're getting colleges to sign on. There may be a bit of a nuance in this case, particularly with the governor getting to him. And also I would say the pilot is really appealing because the pilot really gives us an opportunity to be in that space and prove the efficacy of allowing community colleges to be in this particular field. I mean, there's no way we can fill the need, even with us going through the pilot. So if we can show that we can get students through, we have the curriculum, we have the great faculty, we can fill the programs, it might open up the doors. But you're right, this will be critical. So I know Maria and others, we have been all hands on deck pushing for this, Trustee Vettis, and we think we have an opportunity maybe in this particular time to get it through. So know your team is working hard on this one. I've been communicating with Chancellor Christian almost regularly on this because it is an interest of hers, high priority. LACCD would be part of that pilot. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that. Check a time check, Board President Eno. I wanted to have the trustees an opportunity, maybe the last half hour, to just open dialogue on the tweak of the board goals. I mean, we have some recommendations here, but let me check with Vice Deputy Chancellor Alva Lopez. Are we able to get through the next goal maybe in the next 10 minutes or?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And then we'll, I want to have that time at the end.
And
That's
then
okay.
Chancellor, is it okay if you just go over what goal 2 recommendations from us were to remind us, and then goal 3? Just so we didn't recap on goal 2, and then that way we're actively doing the revision part in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could just.
So on board goal, this is part of the SCIF in the budget. We made a commitment to look at the budget allocation model early and factor in opportunities for us to get all of our colleges to benefit. So we're looking at assessment, reserves, open orders, incentivizing growth, and then looking at unique characteristics, as Trustee Hoffman stated. For example, Pierce is a case of where they have a large acreage of land and operations there look different than other colleges. So we're gonna start that conversation quickly. We're looking at the College Promise model as an opportunity to advocate and expand. Right now we have a bill there that would reduce the eligibility to 9 units. But we're also looking at other opportunities within that. So we'll work through LPAC on that one. And then overall, just ensuring that we continue to have our fiscal stability. So you'll get a little bit of that particular piece in our conversation later today. So that's what I have for goal number 2 as our follow-up. Okay, and goal Goal number 3, we heard some urgency and perhaps getting more resources to really protect our students in the current time. That would be something we'd work through LPAC with and our college presidents. We do have some wins there, short-term Pell, and the urgency of how it's going to apply to CT programs, getting ready now, because this will be a very, out of that, everything that was on the bill, probably the biggest win that we got was short-term Pell. And we advocated for that in January. So getting some plans around that. Again, doing the survey with our students in terms of figuring out what's going to hold them back for continuing their education, and perhaps getting the survey done quickly so that we can report in a committee of the whole in the next 2 to 3 months. So that's what I have so far.
Great. Colleagues, we're good, right? Thank you for that, Chancellor. All right, fourth and final goal. Promote innovation and provide policy direction on educational issues.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Seth Anderson. I'm the Dean of Curriculum and Instructional Support Services here at the district office. And in the interest of time, I've been asked to kind of refer you to the slides, to the materials. I did have a chance to present this to IESS in the spring, but Common Course numbering is happening. We've got the first 7 courses in the schedule. Students are registered for them. And we have received the phase 2 templates that we'll be reviewing in the fall. So I have some examples of the district outreach that we offered in the spring to faculty, to staff, and also some examples of the student communication that's gone out. We have a district website that's been live since January. This is an example of what the messaging is appearing in college catalogs. This is from West LA College. So you have the courses that are affected, an explanation of that change, a link to the website. This is how students will see that information represented in the student portal. When they go to register, they'll see what those courses are. And when they search, they will see the new Common Course numbered courses listed alongside the other courses. So it doesn't break the sequence, or it's not, we're trying to, monitor this to make sure it's not confusing to students, and we'll continue to do that. And so in the fall, there'll be continuing discussions about phase 2, another 7 courses. And I think there'll be also conversations about streamlining curriculum processes and technology systems to make this easier as we start doing this at scale. When we get to doing, 43 courses for fall 27, that will be sort of different than what we've been doing with 7 courses for 26 and 27.
Thank you so much. Sorry that this is still part of our board goal 3, 3.1, but thank you for the update. As a counselor returning to this fall semester, it's been an interesting transition to educate our students on being able to enroll and seamlessness. So I appreciate all of your effort because it's an undertaking. Thank you so much.
Can I just make one quick comment? I just want to say thank you for the work, and I enjoyed your presentation in ISS. I will say that I have counselors that also work in LACCD. I work at Glendale College, and apparently we're doing a much better job here in LACCD in terms of like the student educational plans and the student facing and the counselor facing. They can both see the transition. We're having a little bit of a challenge at my institution because counselor facing isn't showing the new Common Course numbering yet. But my question is, how are we communicating to students who already have ed plans, not new students, but students who are already in the system? And are they going to be confused by the new numbering? Or are we doing some kind of a campaign so that students are aware? Just curious.
Yeah, so I think, the courses that they've already completed, those won't change. Those will still meet the same requirements. I think that's been very crucial in the communication, that this is the same course. It's a revision of an existing course rather than a new course. I think we could definitely do some additional training with that, reach out to, counselors in the fall. I think that's going to be part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I believe the next slide is no, skipping that one.
Sorry, maybe Trustee Francis, maybe this would be a good question for your leadership team on Friday also. The Common Core transition. Are they getting any feedback as far as registration?
Make a comment on that, but I didn't know. Taking comments.
Yeah.
As a student right now, so when you log into our Canvas Now it's like a big bulletin board pops up, letting you know, even when you're on our actual SIS portal and you want to register for classes, that's also big and bulletin right there, letting you know what the old language was and what the new conversion language is. And then like sorry, I didn't forget your name, sorry. But like our presentation was saying, on our actual IGETC form, or if they're following the ed plan, either or, it would still show the original language. So that will not transfer over, but I'm guessing once we hand over the transcripts to our higher education, they would difference that out on their own. But as far as us knowing that C100 is now English 101, that is yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you. I do see that, and I see that everywhere.
Yay.
Come to looking at my classes or enrolling in classes, or if I'm already enrolled, it still pops up when I look on Canvas just to make sure I'm doing my assignments right. So yes.
Perfect.
I see that.
In real time, feedback. Thank you. Please.
Oh, okay. So
Now we're on board goal number
we're
4.
board goal number 4, which deals with AI, credit for prior learning, the master plan for career education, all that kind of stuff. And in the interest of time, to use an automotive term, I'll go wide open throttle.
Yes.
So when AI in education, there's been a lot of innovations happen in this space, especially in the technology plan that's happened that embraces AI technology and enhances learning. The Academic Senate's actually hosting the virtual Senate summit on AI on August 22nd. I actually get to be on one of the panels on that, and LARC is sponsoring that. So the Senate was able to get LARC to leverage some of the funds there. So that's cool. College level, we've got faculty AI toolkits that the Academic Senate are doing at multiple colleges. And we've seen a lot of work in academic honesty policies and generative AI, and also some curriculum. Seth can talk about that, but there's been quite a bit of curriculum that's come through in that space. And then a grant that we're working on with UC San Diego on an AI-assisted tool for CPL assessment. That's in the fire academy area. We're looking at firefighters and being able to assess them for prior learning using AI. And so that's something that we're just beginning to roll out. We just went on contract with UC San Diego. Looking at CPL, there's been quite a bit of process on this. When you look at some of the results, over 8,000 units of CPL have been awarded since 2023, saving about $5 million for students in doing that. And we have 4 of our colleges that have partnership resource teams actually actively engaged with them. That's ELAC, LACC, LA Trade Tech, and West Los Angeles College that is supporting CPL work. And then all 9 of our colleges engaged with the statewide MAP project, actually sent a team to that. Usually it was this team to 4 to 6 went. And then all 9 of our colleges, and we have a district, have a CPL-led strike team. So doing quite a bit of work in this space, still some to go, but we are making advances here. When you look at the state goals, a California master plan was released this past spring, really fostering, looking at prioritization on hands-on learning, streamlined collaboration, eliminating silos and things like that, creating statewide oversight organizations. In this space, we've done a lot of work with dual enrollment. That's a primary area of Vision 2030, plus also with the master plan. So LAUSD, LACCD, there's been quite a bit of momentum between those 2 organizations. When you have the largest community college district in the nation and the second largest USD, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. And so we've been really trying to work to get through that. We just finished a parent-teacher guidebook, or I should say it's a parent-student guidebook. That was a combination effort between LAUSD and LACCD. That should roll out probably next week. We're just waiting for LAUSD to give it the final okay. They're actually finishing up some of their websites because we have links to that. We invited LAUSD to partnership with our strategic dual enrollment management project. So they sent some folks to work with us this last year on that. And then in reciprocal, they said, well, now you have to help us out. So they're doing a LACO project around the same thing with dual enrollment. So we're going to participate with them in that. Adult education, a lot of new pathways in there, particularly in healthcare. So the ELL healthcare pathways, working on diverse learners and that. And then work-based learning as far as the California master plan with the healthcare employment access ladder for Los Angeles, which you call HEAL LA, which helps students that primarily we're going to be teaching a lot of classes across the board. Trustee Bellano will appreciate this in other languages to move them into the healthcare pathway and advance them forward. So a lot of work going in there. We're just getting that one launched off the board. We just hired somebody to help coordinate that. Credit not credit by exam, but basically for competency-based education, still a little bit young on this, doing quite a bit of work. ELAC is really our pilot school when it comes to CBE, because they are one of the colleges, I believe one of 8 or 9 that actually are leading this effort statewide. They're doing some work with a biotech certificate, and they'll be ones that we sort of will help to model some of this work. I know that I get a knock on every once in a while from their academic senate president. Letty says, hey, Jim, we need to move this forward. So, but they are pushing forward on CBE and doing quite a bit of work. And like I said, with the biotech certificate, but this just helps to have folks that can use what they've already learned and be able to apply credit for that as well, but also it moves things through the pathway much faster. So it sort of works in conjunction with credit for prior learning and competency-based education. Looking forward, just to sort of summarize the report, like I said, there's lots of links in there, but looking to develop district-wide policies for AI, CPL, and dual enrollment, to scale and expand, grow our successful pilots that we already have out there, like ELAC CBE program, strengthen our partnerships. There's a lot of interest in dual enrollment from charter schools and not just our own LAUSD that we as one of our largest partners, but lots of school participants and state agencies, and continue to innovate and expand access and equity for all learners, particularly in dual enrollment and adult education, because those are 2 areas that we're seeing significant growth. Dual enrollment is now 17% of our credit enrollment in our district. So, and it's continuing to grow.
Wonderful. Any questions from board colleagues? I think we're good.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. So we still have the chancellor's vision goals alignment, and then for us to do a little bit of debriefing, and we have about half an hour. Is it okay if I request us to go into 12:15? Are we okay with that? Can I get a motion to approve? So moved by Trustee Bona. Second by Trustee Vella, that we extend the time to 12:15.
Student trustee Francis, advisory vote. Trustee Buona,
Yes.
trustee Henderson,
Yes.
trustee Hernandez. Absent. Trustee Hoffman, trustee Eno,
Yes.
trustee Vella,
Yes.
trustee Vettis. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues.
This is trustee Hernandez. Sorry. Yes, I didn't turn the
Thank
mute
you.
off.
Thank you.
Thank you
Please,
so
Chancellor.
much. I'm going to be very cognizant of time because again, I want to give you all an opportunity to be able to weigh in on, refinement of goals. We took about 2 weeks to put this together. You have it in your packet. This is what we're calling the goal alignment. And what we did is we took the district's goals through our strategic plan. We took the board goals, which we went through now. We took, a significant amount of time to update you on where we are. We took my proposed goals, which you'll be looking at possibly today, and then sort of aligning that with the recommended president's goals. Why are we doing this? We want to make sure, again, that all of our goals are aligned moving forward as a district in unison. And I think this is a good visual to show you how we have aligned everything to move forward. We spent the whole morning on your goals today. So that's the first column. The second column would be sort of, tasked to me in terms of how we continue to execute your board goals in the districts, and then how that aligns with the president's. This is an hour presentation. I'm going to spend about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because clearly we're running out of time. But I want to highlight some things that we discussed today, and then give the board an opportunity to say, you know what, we met this goal. We want to shift to a different goal. We think this goal is no longer relevant. So if you look at the first page here, you're going to see your board goals are aligned. We went through these already, 1.1, 1.1A. What is the task for the district? So you'll see there on the chancellor's column is again to continue to focus on enrollment. And we have 3 prongs that we have identified now for, I would say, 4 years. Vice Chancellor Lancaster just mentioned dual enrollment continues to be a priority. LAUSD is declining in enrollment. Interestingly enough, we continue to increase dual enrollment. Sort of an inverse correlation there. So that will continue to be a priority for us. Adult education on credit, CT, strong workforce. And then we've asked each college to identify at least one. They're probably going to have multiple areas of focus for enrollment that they want to make sure that they put effort and energy on. So we've asked them to focus on these 3 and then identify others as they see fit. Efficiency. That is something you'll hear me continue to really focus on. As a district, we're about 25% students average class size. Our goal would be to get about to 30. The summer enrollments look good. We had several colleges that are above 30. We had only a couple that got close, but we need to get more students into these classes to assist with the enrollment component and to assist with the SCIF. So we've asked our college presidents again to make that a focus. They're all working with their teams on that and will continue to do so. Let me go to, so again, goal number 1 is target strategic plans for enrollment, for efficiency, and working with their college stakeholders to do this. Goal number 2, this is again overseeing the college efforts to provide basic needs. We had a robust conversation on basic needs today, but as you can see, the chancellor's task here will be to continue to work through the basic needs committee to ensure that we're having those conversations about how to shape policy, about make priorities in terms of our advocacy and in terms of basic needs. And of course, housing is front and center for the district as we are moving forward. You heard earlier in our presentation, we have multiple ways of addressing student housing. I want to thank Vice Chancellor Sada and his team. Of course, Trustee Hernandez has been in conversations and leading these efforts along with the trustees. In addition to that, we have basic student centers at each of our colleges. We want to make sure those are sustained and maybe even enhanced. More funding, more support, because as you saw in our data this morning, we have a significant need in this space, both housing and food insecurity. So our goal, trustees, and this was your goal at the beginning, is to continue with that, continue expanding opportunities to enhance funding and resources to all of our 9 basic needs centers. At the current state of affairs that we have at the federal level, I think we're seeing more traffic coming through, students who are, looking for ways to get referrals to, legal entities to ensure that they have opportunities for housing and other pieces here. So my responsibility here, as you see in the chancellors, is to continue with the advocacy, support the colleges. And we've asked each of our colleges to continue to make that a priority moving forward. And I have to tell you, they all are. And they're doing amazing work in this space. So that's goal number 2. And again, sorry, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through each bullet point, but I want to make sure that you're aware that my recommendation is we stay strong on that one. Student success and equity, we went through the work that's happening here. I want to make sure that our affinity groups continue to sustain the same level of support and funding. Umoja, Puente, Rising Scholars, Dream Resource Centers. And I do want to thank our chair of LPAC, Trustee Vela, Board President Eno, and advocacy. In the state budget, we were able to receive the block grant. We were advocating for 100 million. We received 60 million. That's going to be about $6 million coming to LACCD. Maria, again, and the team were, and our advocates really push hard for that funding that will allow us to continue to provide support to our Pride Centers, our Dream Resource Centers, and all the affinity groups that need the support. Again, you'll see alignment there with what we've asked the college presidents to focus on, as well as me. Can't go through them all in the interest of time, but you did receive this document, prior to the session today, and you'll have an opportunity to review it further. Let me go on to goal number 3, actually goal number 4, organizational effectiveness. You'll see here, you have Deputy Chancellor and myself listed here. What are we focusing on? We need to make sure, as one of our visions that I shared this morning, is customer service and efficiency. I've tasked this team to really look at our operations. Are we getting back to people on time? Are we serving our students correctly? Are we making sure that our operations are operating at the level that they need to serve our colleges and to serve our students? That's going to be an area of focus for the Deputy Chancellor and myself going forward, as well as putting together what we call key performance indicators for each department. What level are we at? What is the baseline? Where do we want to be? And so that's part of the organizational effectiveness goal. You'll see there. We're going to prioritize redesign and digitization of high impact areas. Vice Chancellor Lancaster mentioned AI. There's opportunity here for us to streamline processes, make them more digital, and make us more effective. We're not interested in replacing employees with AI or technology. These are tools to make us more effective and more efficient. And I want to make that clear. I've had conversations with our labor partners about the importance of AI and how we can become more responsive to the needs of our colleges. So this is part of the Deputy Chancellor's portfolio. You'll see the Vice Chancellors will be involved with these tasks. But my goal, one of my primary goals coming in as a new Chancellor, is increasing the level of service, efficiency, and responsiveness to our colleges. So that's primarily goal number 4. And goal number 5, we've talked through it, fiscal integrity, fiscal stability. And again, I want to commend all of our 9 college presidents. We had, my goodness, probably a good 25 meetings. They had some separately without me. They had some with me, but they worked really hard to get every single college balance at the end of this year. And all of them have a fund balance going forward. It's going to be a tough year. We know that. But my role as chancellor is to ensure that we find opportunities where we can to support them. We're going to look at the allocation model. That was one of the recommendations coming out of today's discussion. Where's the assessment? What can we do to ensure that the majority of funding can get back to the colleges, because that's where our students are. So we make a commitment, but we're also asking the college presidents, each of them, to give us a plan of how they will be balanced at the end of the year with the support of the chancellor, the deputy chancellor, and the board. Again, this is all covered in this goal. Fiscal integrity and stability is a priority going into this year. And I have to say, through the advocacy of the leadership of this board, again, we have a decent state budget, all things considered. We have a decent state budget. The federal budget did not have a significant impact on us. So now it's up to us with the resources that we have to make sure that we are balanced at the end of the year. And that's the commitment we're making. And you'll see it here on our goals. So again, trustees, it is an hour presentation condensed into, I think it was 7 minutes, but all the information is here. Please, I know you'll have an opportunity to take a look at it. This will shape how we move forward with my goals and the president's goals. And I do want to recommend to this board that you consider shifting the timeline of assessment to July 1 to June 30th. That's important because it aligns with all of our assessments at the college level. It aligns with the budget fiscal year. It allows for the incoming board president to have 6 months to be able to work on the current goals rather than scramble and try to, set goals while in the first month of being a board president. I know, board president Eno, with the help of Trustee Henderson, did an amazing job in putting that together, but it wasn't easy. I think we were meeting over the holidays to get the goals on time.
We did.
So it gives us another 12 months to work on this. It allows us to add goals, revise goals, and set them forth. It is a recommendation for your consideration today. And it is normally how most community colleges, assess themselves in a sort of a fiscal year, academic year. With that, I'm happy to take questions, but I do want to give an opportunity to our trustees to look at the goals that are in place and then give us feedback in terms of whether or not you're interested in revising any of these. And again, sorry for the brevity, but I want to be cognizant of time. So I'm happy to answer questions.
You have a question from Trustee Belna.
4 quick things. I would support shifting that shift
Great.
that you're requesting. Also, I'll just go through the 3 of them. I didn't see, I saw Kelly King here earlier. So I'm not sure how the foundation, through her leadership, our capacity has increased significantly. So how they fit in here, maybe I missed it. I haven't seen it, but I probably missed it. And I think they're very important in terms of how they are getting assets and how it's fitting in. So they should fit into these goals. I do think, and I'm not sure it could have been done before, that we do need an overlap with the calendar in Washington, D.C. Because their actions are going to affect everyone, state budget, absolutely. So not aligning this with the federal timeline, I don't think is realistic. And then separately, is there anything, within your team that put all this together, is there any disagreement, any dissent that may be an idea that didn't get in here, that should have got in here, and kind of that dialogue? So that's it.
Thank you. Respond quickly. Yes, so astute observation, Trustee Buena. The foundations fit under goal 4. And that's where Kelly King, again, doing amazing work in the last few months. One of the things that we're working on is all the foundations have all the colleges have great foundations. Some are operating at a little bit of a higher level than others, but the commitment that we made is to ensure that we support them in their efforts to gain more resources for our students. So that's goal number 4. And then secondly, you asked about the overlap in the calendar of DC. That would be, I still think that even in the fiscal year, you'll have a support from 2 different board presidents to continue the agenda. I really don't think that has somewhat of an impact in terms of our advocacy efforts. And the third question you asked about was
Is there anything?
dissent. Okay. Well, we have been in conversations with our presidents. They have seen this document. They saw it about 2 weeks ago. We had an opportunity to share with them. I had a conversation with a couple of board, or actually presidents about it. So they're here if they're, but I think we're all on board. I will tell you this, none of this is new to them. This is all that they have been working on. I mean, support for basic needs, working on their budget. So all of this, Trustee Buelna, is the work they're doing. We're simply highlighting it in this document and committing to it throughout the year. So the executive team has seen it. I know Deputy Chancellor Alba Lopez has met with her team in terms of next steps. So the short answer is, I think we're all on board with this document. We're committing to this as our sort of 12-month, 12-month goals for the year. And I think this will be a good way for us to track progress going forward. So we spent a lot of time on this. The Deputy Chancellor did a lot of work to refine it. The college presidents have seen it and they've reviewed it. The executive team that's done as well. So we're on board with this 100%. Thank you.
Any other comments? Trustee Veras and then Trustee Hoffman.
So no, appreciate the work here, and I know you didn't make speak now forever hold. It wasn't that.
No,
it's a work in continue dialogue and improvement here. This is sort of one of the first years that we don't have our facilities elevated to sort of real high, unless it's sort of generally there in terms of just operational efficiency. And I think that's valuable. But I wanted to sort of borrow a little bit from listening to Carvalho's speech and hearing a lot of the advocacy in our partners at LA Unified, where there's definitely a great sort of push to make the schools the centers of communities. And I think sometimes we, by default, become the centers of regional communities, and that's a really good thing. But I'd still like to continue to see how as we facilitate our construction program and move forward, and I know we have a number of incredible buildings that are going to be coming online and starting to be open to students and / the public. Some of them actually envision being connected to the public as well. That how we can, sort of see ourselves as the center of sort of regional community engagement. And maybe not that dissimilar from what, some people have been listening to for 12 years at LA Unified, in terms of the way those schools are engaged. But for Performing Arts Center and facilities and culinary and all these kinds of things that I think have been really fantastic things. Sometimes we do it through the foundation, but sometimes it's just, it just may be a way of the culture that we expect. I can't tell you for, having, for example, we did Culinary Cup admission a little while ago, from having been in that community for many years of my life, to hear people say that when they get out there, it's an amazing place and looks incredible, from, a couple of bungalows in San Fernando to be what it is today. But all the schools have that kind of story. And whether it's blended into the facilities, roadmaps, programs, kind of housing as well, because it's part of that dialogue as well. Some of the bills that we're carrying up in Sacramento are asking for authority to be handed over to us, as opposed to the sort of city county approval process. But I think the more that people feel comfortable as that we're a center of a civic engagement and community space, on top of the sort of core priorities that we're offering, it just feels that that's the policy stance that's happening at a K through 12 level. And I just want to see it sort of flow through us as well. And we do it. I'm not trying to say we're inventing it.
Yeah.
They all do a great job of keeping the doors wide and engaging. But if there's whether it's cost barriers, breaking down space, maybe they need additional support. Maybe there's things we can think about that if there are barriers, how can we, adjust and adapt to them?
Thank you for that. And I would say it's kind of embedded in the cost budget piece, because we do rent our facilities out significantly. But that's a little different. What I'm hearing is something a little different, just opening up the campuses to our community. And I think this is where we can have the conversation with the college presidents about the additional financial support. We do pay overtime to staff to handle those events and to make sure they're there and accessible. To the extent that we can mitigate that cost and open up our opportunities, that'd be great. Talking to Superintendent Carvalho a couple of months ago, he was very grateful to the fact that we have opened our campuses to even LAUSD. And you know, we get the positive feedback always. Wow, state-of-the-art facilities. You guys have invested so much in all of your colleges. People that hadn't been there in years and come back see it transform a college across the board. So let me communicate with the college presidents on ideas on this, but I get the request in terms of being more of that community center, if you will, for that particular community, whether it be in East LA, whether it be at Silmar, whether it be you know, in another place. So I'll jot it down. We can add it as a subset of one of our goals.
Yeah.
And an
It's
aspiration
somewhere
goal.
here. It's just.
Yeah, I just don't know where we can fit it, but I get the request, and I think it's a fair request to make.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Trustee Hoffman?
Thank you, Chancellor. I think what was like glaringly missing from the presentations today was something from the foundation and Kelly King, and I just want to like publicly thank you because you really are doing so much work, and so much in goal number 2 would not be accomplished without your efforts. And I just hear from the community, I hear from everyone what a great job you're doing and how wonderful our district foundation is. So I would like to see a goal in here around not only the district foundation, but our campus foundations. That's something that we've been kind of biting around the edges on for a long time. And we really need to like make sure that they're beefed up and supported. And I just think you're doing such great work, and the model that you have here should be able to be replicated on some of our campuses. And so I want to see a specific goal about your in your goals about working directly with our district foundation. And then the other thing that's missing, and I think we're going to maybe talk about this at a later time, is marketing, public relations, PIO. And I feel like that goes hand in hand with government relations, because everything that we're doing legislatively, it will needs to be communicated.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a beautiful article that came out yesterday in the LA Times. I don't know if everyone saw it. Amazing about LA Trade Tech and the culinary program that probably just didn't spring out of nowhere or grow from our herb garden. So I want to see more synergy with government relations, marketing, communications, and public information. And I would like to see a specific goal in your goals around that and include crisis communications as well. Because, you know, it's not something that happens often, but when it does happen, we need to be able to be ready to address it. And I love the positive, like how often is it that the LA Times actually writes a positive story about us? We need to ride that wave and continue with that momentum. So thank you. And again, I want to thank both of you for your work, Julia and Kelly, like really great work throughout the year. Thank you.
Well embedded in here as well. Thank you.
Great points. Any other board colleagues see the district goals? And then we can, I guess we'll just transition. More might come up in this one, the board goals or the district goals. Oh yeah, please, Trustee Francis.
Quick comment. I know as being as a student body president, a lot of things that was brought to me as attention when I do events is that our sponsorships or our donors feel they're not respected enough to be there, or even they don't even know sometimes that they're having events there, so they don't know what their money has changed on our campus, or what help that they brought to our campus. They're not seeing that, they're not getting that in it, they're not receiving that, and they're not seeing it. So maybe pushing out, moving forward, do these events, invite them out, or just say a thank you or shout them out as well if they're not present. Just making sure that our donors and our sponsorships are just feeling welcome, because a couple of them feel like, with them not seeing no progress, it's like, what am I here for? What am I putting my money in for? What am I, what are we doing here? So, and I know with our region, one of my presidents is the region director of our actual, on SSCCC. So she's involved in pretty much overseeing what districts usually snatch our sponsorships, or who's able to gain sponsorships, doing certain things that could qualify them to even have that door accessible to them. So yeah, just
good point. Yeah. for us to be mindful. Great. Any other comments to, oh, yes, President Culpepper?
Thank you, trustee. I just wanted to make a comment concerning trustee Hoffman's marketing comment. So you may have known that Southwest College over the last 3 months has been acknowledged in several stories, NBC, Sports Central, concerning the transfers and the success of our students in the dual enrollment programs. So we've been those have been highlighted in our marketing plans as well. I was hoping that maybe that information got to the trustees, but somehow it may not. So we'll make sure you get copies of it. We send it through our PRM. So we'll make sure you get copies of that. But we're out there, and I think all the colleges are being highlighted in various ways throughout the media. But we'll make sure you get that information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have about 15 minutes to kind of just review what our board goals are to ensure that we're on the right track, to identify the ones that we want to keep and then the ones that we want to remove. I think we'll start off, and Trustee Buona already moved to in support of, but I think I agree with what the chancellor said. Coming in as board chair in December, also having to come up and do the board goals, it's quite daunting and somewhat overwhelming. I do like the idea of continuity from past board chair to the next board chair to continue the goals, to kind of give the new board president 6 months in to really, I think, feel more comfortable with the board goals to make sure that things are being addressed. And then also that the previous board president has the opportunity to effectively execute the things that they've taken on. I do want to appreciate past President Henderson. She was very gracious in her time with me to kind of do a soft handoff and really help me acclimate to what I was getting myself into. And then, it was really great, but I think moving to the fiscal calendar just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, or the academic calendar. Do we need to take a motion on that? Or is it just an internal?
I think it would be
consent?
a recommendation of the board, and then I would definitely want that to be unanimous.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions or concerns?
So
I mean, I think in the past, when we had when we took office and we had the rotation of officers in July, that was the calendar. Like, we had the rotation of officers, and then the fiscal year the academic year would begin, and then that's when the new board goals. And so I think the reason why it was changed was to accommodate the rotation of officers in December. And I specifically remember when Francisco brought that to us to make that change, and it felt weird because it wasn't aligned with, and it still feels strange not to be aligned with the academic calendar. So I think that's just something we need to consider. I always thought it was better to be with the academic calendar, but then it is a little bit odd because you do your rotation of officers. We do our rotation of officers in December. I don't know what's better or worse. It's kind of nice to start fresh with the new president's sort of goals going forward. I'm agnostic, whatever the group decides.
Trustee Veras?
yeah, similar comment, because when we made the change, it was literally to facilitate a different sort of voice and leadership as well. I think obviously budget is a big part of the dialogue, and sort of having our goals set like sort of in the middle of a budget cycle was always challenging. So to go back to it, I think feels okay, but it's a standpoint of a leadership dialogue. But let me throw it out the other way, because I do sit on a couple of boards where we do sort of 2-year cycles to give it a longer range, because some of the goals are not accomplishable in 6 months, for example. So that has helped those other organizations where they set an idea and then they do check-ins regular, but the difference is that you're given things a 2-year window. So maybe there's, and I think we see it as short-term and long-term goals here, I think, but but we keep the prioritization, like I said, other places for 2 years on some subject items, and then we get regular updates, things related to fiscal stuff. But I'm open either way. Just the change was a little abrupt because, you see certain things attached to money in the program. And then when that ends and then it doesn't restart, it does hamper you a little bit, but I'm open to either way.
I think, well, just as the current board president, I think we do the mid-year. So I think it helps to take on the past 6 months of what's been doing. And then in the mid-year, it's kind of when I think I have better bearings and am able to contribute in a more substantial way. So the mid-year could then be the reflective point where the current board president really adds to the changes. But then also board president, we get to create the chairs of the committees, which also could influence what's being done. And so I think those two things help align with an effective meeting our goals effectively, and also continuing like continuity, and aligning with our budget. So I hear what both of you are saying, and I think there potentially are some concerns, but I think with how things have been in this last cycle, and the next transition to the next, board president and the future, I think this is a good model for continuity. So we're not pivoting too hard within our board, but of course, based off of what's happening globally and nationally, if we need to pivot, I think it'll empower us a little bit more to make those moves.
Yeah, and then just again, the budget, and then if we're looking at transfers, completions, to have the cycle align with the completion of the academic year makes a little more sense. So, yeah.
Any other discussion? Yes.
Move to approve.
Move to approve. I will, or
Second.
so move to approve by trustee Buona and trustee Henderson seconded. Roll call, please, Crystal, or just. Oh, okay, we could just do it by affirmation. Great, thank you. So now I guess so now what we're doing is just solidifying our board goals for the next year. So after all of the wonderful presentations that we've had to kind of update us on what has been accomplished, and then like we mentioned in the packet at the beginning, Deputy Chancellor Alba Lopez compiled this really comprehensive list of evidence to all of the goals that we've been meeting, and you can read throughout all of it. Each trustee and Trustee Francis, you're already contributing to this list in ways, and so we've all been really active to meet our board goals. And so, yeah, and there's links. So this was sent to us as well. So if we want to click all of them, but we've been extremely active. And so I think it's great to highlight all of this. And I'm really grateful to Deputy Chancellor Alba Lopez for putting this together to show everything that we've been doing. Because I think we do a lot of work, but it's really hard to look up to recognize what we've actually accomplished. And this is a great document for our community to really acknowledge what the district has been doing. So thank you for that. If it's okay, I think I'll just move through the board goals to identify whether we should keep them. I know there was a recommendation to possibly add an additional goal. And so the chancellor did a wonderful job kind of identifying little minor tweaks to some of them. It did seem like from all of them, we wanted to keep majority of them. The only one I think that might be kind of we can take off of our list is 3.1 to monitor AB 111. Since it's been implemented, I know we were worried about implementation, but now that it's actually been implemented, maybe we can just get a report out or update on the process of all of that. So if it's okay to eliminate 3.1. But right, the Common Core numbering one, I think we had concerns on how it was going to be rolled out, but since it's been rolled out, we'll just continue to get updates. But as far as being a board goal, it doesn't seem necessary at this time. Board goal 1, oversee district college efforts to increase enrollment, transfer completion, student performance, and success. I'm sure we all agree to continue address the basic needs, food insecurity, financial aid, physical and mental health textbook technology connectivity, as well as issues facing foster youth, veterans, the LGBTQIA+, student parents, including access and use of on-campus childcare services. So from what our recommendations were, this one, as well as the 1.2, the SCIF, seems still pretty paramount issues for us. Was there any additional area under district efforts that we wanted besides what the chancellor had added to our comments? Good. For item number 2, maintain the financial health of the district. Of course, that's one of our 2 main jobs, fiduciary responsibility and oversee the chancellor. So I'm sure this goal remain, as well as the recommendations that we had when we were going over the item. Anything else we want to add to this, Chancellor?
I think here we're just, Trustee Vettis' we're looking at the reallocation model. Starting now and going forward. And then on the first one, if I can go back just for a quick, and my apologies.
No.
On the LGBTQ+, there was for me a focus, and I've talked to, Trustee Velez talked to me about trans students doing some activities around that. It doesn't change the goal, but we'll add activities here through our advisory committee and then bringing people together to see what else we can do to support trans students. I think that unfortunately that's been somewhat of a target, and we want to look at enrollment and ways to support them more. So we'll add it to the activities. It doesn't change the goals, but I wanted to highlight that as well. And of course, on the fiscal side, the allocation model for the district will be a priority in this goal.
Great. Perfect. Okay, so board goal 3, strengthening operations, efficiency, effectiveness, and the oversight of the district and the colleges. So I am going to recommend, and I didn't get any abstentions or dissent on removing 3.1 and just making it an update, maybe an IESS. And then, so we will keep the 3.2, which is ensure that the district is prepared for newly developed federal, state policies and legislation. I mean, that's really critical. The presentation that Maria gave just highlights the ways that I think primarily we operate as a board. I think it's one of our really cool functions that we get to do, and that's help move policy and legislation and advocate for our students. Yes, Trustee Hoffman. Sure, great comment. Yes.
And this one speaks to Trustee Buenas, again, the sense of urgency, putting the agenda. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that, this year, the LPAC became not as proactive, not on purpose. It became reactive due to the administration. So, I just want to make sure that, and, student trustee Francis mentioned, just capturing all of the needs from the college presidents, from faculty, the Senate, student trustee to reflect our ledge package. And so, however much more we can act on a dime and also take advantage of the window periods of our connections with the state legislature, with the federal government, on like how we can essentially look at emergencies that can come around, right? So yeah, that would be the flexibility, I guess you could call it.
Right.
Is that, yeah?
And our ability to advocate for the entire system, right?
Yeah, that was something unintended. But no, definitely, I'm really proud that we are also interested in statewide what our community college just statewide are going through, because they're going through the same thing. So
yeah, and I think just as a board, I think Trustee Vela and I are extremely grateful for the support and advocacy and just progressive mindedness that this board holds to allow
it was very helpful for Trustee Hoffman to have been the former and current emeritus to the league, and then we had, and you're still on there exactly as on the board, because it really was, we were able to communicate quickly versus having an answer 2 weeks later or whatever.
Yes. Our political arm is very dynamic and very dynamic and very impressive, and we're very grateful.
Add quickly, I've learned that to the fact that the state's tapping on us to push initiatives. I mean, they're coming to LACCD and saying, can you help with this AB 1400 or whatever? So they see the power and efficacy of our advocacy. And again, building a great relationship with the state chancellor, but they're looking to us to lead some efforts. Again, speaks to the efficacy and the strength we have in this particular arm.
Mhm. Yeah, so thank you to Chair Vela and
Yeah.
Maria for all of that work.
So I do have a couple of changes on board goal 4.
Please, changes.
Okay, so I just want to say again, like, thank you so much. Thank you, Trustee Bettis, for your leadership at IESS. Thank you to the Academic Senate. Thank you to everyone who's been really looking at the AI stuff. This is very critical. Like the segue, what you're talking about when our state chancellor asked us to also be the leader in the discussions about fire tech and fire related jobs. I know that the mayor has been very interested in also talking to us. I'd like to propose to add that component. So, you know, I don't necessarily think it has to say fire, but emergency preparedness would be one to add to the component of AI, you know, as a focus. The other one, which is a bit of a niche, and I know that, you know, I have the backup of Trustee Hernandez, who's our FinPOC chair. Trustee Hernandez, you would love, if you'd love to weigh in, I would love it. I don't know where you're at. But we have been really, both Trustee Hernandez and I, in a good way, trying to advocate for our students to continue to be part of our build program and the jobs that it creates, and also any other, you know, we're talking about LAWA, we're talking about our local, you know, LA Unified has a big program. They just got approved for the bond for the fire reconstruction of their schools. So if we could put a focus on that particular, if the Senate can look at how we can apply not just the trades, because I think that is Trustee Hernandez's biggest push, is to make sure the trades pick up more of our students, but also being part of the community and the industry. Also at looking at construction management related jobs that our academic senate, our colleges like at Trade Tech could also teach. So these jobs are a subsidiary of like the trades. They're like safety tech, they're like estimating, they're assistant project manager. And some of these jobs can be very lucrative and might only take a 2-year you know, degree and or a certificate. So I do propose, if you guys, you know, I would appreciate all your support to add that also. I'll tell you that, you know, if we were to put a focus, and the Senate and all of us, on these type of jobs, it would really increase the amount of our students participating in the bond program, because, and you know, Vice Chancellor Sata, if you want to weigh in here, so much of the build programs jobs, you have obviously the hard construction jobs that our trades, I think, are really stepping up. Thanks to Trustee Hernandez, she's been talking to the trades, and I know all of you have your own relationships. But there's also like many jobs that are on the soft construction side. So these are anywhere from architect to assistant project manager and so on and so on. So I would love for that to be a board goal, because we could then create those jobs and kind of connect our students. A good example of a very successful program is ELAC's pre-law program, where I think Kenneth Chatpatrick has done a good job in really, even though we can't graduate lawyers at ELAC, they're literally like on their way, like quickly. And so whatever we can do to, you know, I know at UCLA we had like Soles, like, you know, where you can literally like increase people's ability to stay in the architect track or the engineering track. It's similar to what, you know, universities try to do with like Chicanos in community medicine to become an MD and, you know, so on and so forth. Same with the law. So that's my pitch to changes on that side, on
David,
board.
just to be clear, were you, it sounds like at the end of listening to it all, it started with our build program, but it ended up with like maybe like a broad conversation about students and job, or facilitating students' jobs and internships. And it just reminded me like the dialogue we had about the Olympics and the jobs there. You know, I know been working with a few of our staff, and Jim in particular has been great about working with our local sports franchises in terms of the jobs that are inside operationally, and that's a great initiative that's out there that's coming up.
Yes.
But I wonder if maybe it's like how to facilitate our student intern opportunities that pathway them into career opportunity, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we can advocate, you know, I definitely do want us to put an importance to CM related jobs, and because, you know,
Because we're here.
because we're here, and then like Trade Tech, I know, you know, is opening a new building across the street. Maybe it's a good time for the academic senate there to talk to our president there and Dr. Sata. But yeah,
If I could jump in just on that note, Trustee Villa, Trustee Hernandez, yeah, I agree with what Trustee Villa was talking about with the build program. I think there's a lot of room for improvement on upping the numbers of LACCD students that actually end up working on those programs. And I think there's a way that we can partner more effectively with the trades around their MC3 program, which is included in the project labor agreement. And I think there's a real opportunity currently right now. The MC3 program is not offered at trade, which is crazy because it's the LA Trade Tech. But we don't have that particular program that's offered through the trades that creates a direct pipeline to their various apprenticeship programs. And there's various reasons for it, but I think there's an opportunity to move forward to reestablish it. And I know that the trades are eager to do that, and it's going to take some, you know, just working out the details and kind of sitting down with different stakeholders at the college. I believe that work's already in process, and Dr. Sata, you can maybe provide an update. But I think just in that vein, if I would agree with Trustee Vella and in continuing that work with the goal and the objective of increasing the number of students that are actually working on our build program projects, because it's not enough. And these aren't internships. These shouldn't be internships that we're looking at. These should be jobs. We should pride ourselves in turning out students that are able to enter the construction trades industry and that are actually working on our campuses. And right now, when you look at the numbers, it's not enough. It's not enough to be proud of, at least. And I think that should be a goal.
yeah, and I want to reiterate, thank you, Trustee Hernandez, that this is very specific to our academic center, our colleges, to offer the courses, not just of the trades, but of construction management related. Like, for example, public outreach is a huge related profession to the construction management world. So is stuff like project labor agreement, small business compliance. There's all sorts of stuff that I would like to see our colleges offer more courses on those related. And also, as Trustee Hernandez mentioned, strengthening the trade component and our apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships. I want to say that that's very, Trustee Veras' comment about the internships is very strategic and surgical, because that is a way that you do increase the number of our students getting their foot into some of these firms that offer these jobs. And so that's why with the strong workforce bill that Mike Fong, Assemblymember Fong is carrying for us, we're trying to incentivize this money to be available to businesses to also offer internships. So it's kind of like right now we're having, you know, some of our people who work on our program, they're already offering internships and paying for it themselves. But to also increase, because there's a lot of smaller firms in our build program that can't afford an internship to pay for it. So this strong workforce bill would allow for some of these businesses to apply for strong workforce money to give our students some of the internships that are needed. So I think we all went in a circle, but it's basically the same. Yeah.
Take a crack at this for kind of said, is it possible that the goal would be, I think, and also with their transfer, the conversation we had about transfer earlier, right? Like, what are we doing for our students for the next phase of their career, right? Not just while they're here. So I kind of just wrote creating a landing place and opportunities for our current existing students. So that would help them transition to the next phase. So that definitely could be a new board goal, right? Where we can maybe also look at not just what the the transfer numbers are, but then where are they going and what are the gaps and issues that we have with that, as well as the workforce, what kind of partnerships with the build programs, the trades and things like that are we working on now?
Just
to hand
please
them off?
target CM related jobs.
Okay.
Construction management is very different from
Yeah.
hard construction and
Soft trade.
Yes,
Yeah, I got that
correct.
one.
Soft
Yeah.
construction
Got 'em
jobs.
all.
Let,
Yeah.
let me try this.
Architect, engineer.
So
Okay.
enhanced pathways to internships and jobs for construction management related.
That's it.
Okay.
That's-
Okay. If it's a whole new board goal,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll try to see if it fits in here.
Sure.
But
that's it. Thank you.
Trustee Bowman?
When the
Took way too
survey,
much time from
as,
everyone.
as the survey data is becoming available, because we are leading the state and a lot of this stuff, if we can make the presentation a public presentation,
Sure.
literally go over some of the results, either at the September, maybe part of the results, or an October meeting, so that the state kind of, because we're one of the few community colleges that could do some of this stuff. A lot of these small colleges cannot afford this. So, we want to make sure that they can piggyback off of our data and maybe convince the state chancellor's office to invest some of their own data into this.
That's why we're the largest.
so
Thank you.
Trustee Wellman, just because our fall starts September 2nd. So we'll get that out as soon as we can. And it would be a fall committee of the whole. But I don't know, September won't be ready. So we'll do it as soon as we can, but it will be sometime in the fall.
I just have a quick comment. I know as a student, my students they don't want to leave our community college. They got embedded into the progress of the bonds that they built with their team whether that be administration or so forth, as being a student worker. Their internships, maybe you could work about filling in the gaps in your actual home itself instead of sitting them outside of home. Bring them back in. I know Southwest is really great at that, of bringing their students back in. LACC is very great on that. As soon as they graduate, they're like, hey, we have the spot open. I know you're transferring out, but we also have this open available here. Let's get that in. And I know students are very excited about that. I think we forget that community college is the pipeline. We're not taught that in school. We're taught to go straight to university. That's why we fail. So I think we need to remember like who we are as just like a nationwide, community colleges is the first step of adulthood, right? But we're not taught that. So our students that are graduating and returning back to work inside our district is the data. That is the map of that is working, and that you guys care about us because you're not only teaching us, but you're now opening up that door to let us go and, network and take off from there. So, thinking about that, just a little side note as well, that we have positions open within our schools, fill them in with students that already are looking towards that pathway, like you said, or just looking for, like you said, looking for another chance as well. So just another food for thought that students do want to work at their colleges or want to work at any college.
Right.
Stand for.
Definitely.
That's a
Great.
good point.
So I soft polled my board colleagues on additional goals, and it seems like we are good with what we have with the addition of Trustee Vella's recommendations. And so with that, we do have a video.
We're in the way of
Really
your
quick.
lunch. So
Yeah.
we're only going to show you 2 minutes, but I think it's kind of neat, and it's showcasing AI in a whole different way. And it's in the context of your board goals. So I know we're getting in the way of your lunch. Give us 2 minutes and we'll adjourn. I promise you it's worth it. So
Yeah.
we're going to show you this quick video here.
And thank
2
you for
minutes.
everyone
It's
for
7
your-
minutes, and then we'll send it to you.
AI created.
Thank you for your participation in it.
AI created, yes.
How does a huge organization, especially in education, actually set its course for the future? We're doing a deep dive today into the strategic blueprint of a major community college district.
Yeah, we're unpacking the Los Angeles Community College District's strategic plan goals and their annual leadership goals alignment report for 2025-2026.
Okay.
This should give you a really clear picture of their key priorities, the actions they're taking, and also the opportunities and, let's be honest, the real world challenges they face serving such a massive student population.
Right. So let's kick things off with student success. That's goal number one, the big one. What actions are defining that mission? Boosting enrollment, transfers, completions?
Well, a core activity is just constant monitoring of enrollment trends, you know,
Right.
using data to figure out where to put resources.
Makes sense.
For instance, they specifically highlighted the impact of the LA Southwest College football program.
Football.
Yeah, on enrollment and transfer rates. It's an interesting example of how different things can impact those core goals. They're also assessing student needs, especially for disproportionately impacted groups, through a biennial student survey.
Okay, so that's the high level view. How does this actually, trickle down into specific programs or day-to-day support for students?
Right. So they're actively reviewing various career and technical education programs, CTE, things like respiratory therapy at LA Valley College, digital marketing at LA Harbor, dental hygiene at West LA College.
Making sure they're aligned with what employers need?
Exactly.
That was just a
Ensuring
snippet.
alignment with workforce needs. Plus, they're tackling basic needs.
So this
too.
goes, as you can see, on and on. I want to thank Vice Chancellor Lancaster for putting this together. That wasn't his voice, by the way, or that wasn't Nicole. That was all AI. But just to showcase the power of AI, and I would say this again, it is something that we're looking at all of our colleges, but making sure we're using it in an educationally responsible way. So I don't know if you have final remarks.
I think thank you for everyone's engagement and participation, and just all the work. And let's continue. Thank you. We'll reconvene at 1 o'clock.